Yeah, we're that it's the last year.
Oh, I was going to correct them? So how many were in class 11?
Oh.
15, 14, 15.
Fridays are always.
But it's the last one.
That's one.
I loved it this time. I did it last year. This time. I think there was an easy one too that I did. But I learned so much more because I knew more to start with. It's like the next level for me is awesome. It's a great way to start your year.
Absolutely.
What else do you do in January?
Absolutely.
And it reset to, it restart to, give you new ideas. And you know what works for you and what doesn't now, so you explore new avenues. I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think the key is, you know, with that, right, is something that as we kick off today, is thinking about your development is ongoing.
Right.
And a lot of what we're going to talk about today, if you want to have a great year, fine. But if you want to have a thriving career, it takes consistency. I'm not saying you have to attend every single Ignite class every single year. However, like, if you pay attention to the calendar, pay attention to what's being taught, pay attention to what's being delivered here, and say, okay, next month I'm going to hit these 3 classes. And you can consistently do that. You could sit in a listening presentation with your clients and say, on average, I attend over 100 hours worth of content every year. The normal Michigan realtor does 6.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So these are just things to think about. Let alone the actionables and the applications to your business and how you can learn, the relationships you build with vets in the industry, like Stacy. I mean, how was Stacy's class? How was Don's class? How was Nick Tracy's class? How was Kevin's class? Like, think about what you've been able to see just in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? You had to deal with me, deal with Sandy, right? So that's kind of where I want to start is what's been like the number one aha you've taken away from this so far? We heard what Carla just said. What else have you taken away that you're excited to implement and put into your business? What are you thinking right now in terms of where you're at in your business?
Well, just in general, you know, I've read Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate Agent and Shift in this book, and I think his system cannot fail. This book is outstanding. I think if a person follows this book, I mean, he's got the most obnoxious personality in history. I don't think he can fail.
Right. Simple, not easy.
Exactly.
It
takes time, it takes work, it takes focus.
Yeah.
You have to be smart.
Yep.
But it's in here.
Yep. And it boils down to lead gen and lead conversion.
Can I mention one thing? Criticism?
Yeah.
A lot of these, they have these exercises. Just like we didn't do. I don't think we did any of this, and I think we should have. I think the instructor should have highlighted the key points in the text, because there's a lot of text, 30 or 40 pages, like this. We didn't do any of this stuff. I think that would have been valuable.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get the feedback later. That's great.
Okay.
But I appreciate that. And I want you to know too that I was on a conference call last night, and we are phasing out over this year this Ignite, and we're doing an Ignite 2.0, just like Bold. And so if there's any language in here that you felt was maybe a little dated or maybe not as timely, Ignite 2.0, when it launches by Q4 of this year or Q1 of next, is going to have some of those evaluations built into online modules that you'll be going to in addition to text. So it's almost foolproof. We revamped. I got to give credit. One thing, not to defend it, it's great feedback. One thing I want to defend though is we delivered this Ignite with no productivity coach. Al stepped up and has been doing a ton of work on the back end to record and us deliver, and we revamped over half the faculty.
Yeah.
So we will be doing, just so you're aware, a faculty debrief on, okay, you've taught it once now, here's the feedback that we got, good and bad. So I just want you to know that it won't fall on deaf ears. I see that as the kind of the breakfast of champions feedback, right? Anything to add to that with what you're looking at from a new eye?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the, again, it's, when you look at your Ignite book, there's a lot to it. Again, hyper-focused on, okay, it's kind of like your daily activities, right? So if this is 100% of the book, what's 20% what that I have to know and have to focus on? I think making sure from the instructor level that's highlighted every single class every single opportunity. Otherwise, you get spread thin, you're not too sure what to focus on. But like John said, it should be reiterated, it's the lead gen and lead conversion that's the main focus, and sometimes the hardest part. I do want to take a minute and just share real quick. I was reading this morning. I got up and I try to read something every morning. And it made me think of it recently, especially with Kobe Bryant. It's an article about him, from an author named Max Wegan. So, something he said was, Kobe Bryant is generally considered one of the greatest athletes in the world, not because of his talent, but because of his incredible mindset and work ethic. When he was on stage accepting the Icon Award at the ESPYs in 2016, he addressed his fellow athletes in a speech that has stuck with me for the past few weeks. Kobe said, "We're not on the stage just because of talent or ability. We're up here because of 4 a.m. We're up here because of two-a-days. We're up here because we had a dream and let nothing stand in our way. If anything tried to bring us down, we used it to make us stronger. We never satisfied, never finished. We will never be retired." And especially when I think, and I talked with John about this, when we talk about somebody like Kobe Bryant and his greatness, and he was actually tracking to do more outside of basketball than he actually did with them. When you think about, a few years out of the game, he already won an Academy Award, he was already writing short stories, he was already doing a ton of tricks. He was doing so much, never being retired, never being satisfied, even when you've achieved what he achieved. And he goes on and he asks, it transfers to everything that you do, and you have to figure out what is your 4 a.m. His 4 a.m. was getting up and going to the gym every single morning because he knew most of his competition, even at the professional world-class level, were not doing it. So what is your 4 a.m.? What are you going to do that your competitors are not willing to do? I'm going to tell you, a lot of times, it's as simple as committing to lead generation. Committing to those activities that right now are probably not comfortable. But again, that's what makes it great. And if you can stick to those activities, I guarantee you will elevate. And that's always something especially when I wake up, I don't get up quite at 4 a.m., but I get up early. And I always think of, what is the 4 a.m.? What is my 4 a.m.? What can I do that I know other people are not willing to do? And I think as we kind of go through Ignite, it's kind of like you said, you learned a lot. There's a lot of material. It's picking out, what can I focus on? What can I do that I know other people are not willing to do? And that will give me the edge and elevate. Again, just something I read this morning when I brought it in. I thought it's important to share. Especially when we get into the mindset of these hyper-talented people that don't just rely on talent. They actually, even Kobe's like, it's not my talent that got me where I am, it's my work ethic. And when you can apply that, it's unbelievable what you can do. It's my long-winded segue. Go ahead.
There's a book called The 5 a.m. Club that I would encourage you to think about adding to your reading list, The 5 a.m. Club, that highlights a lot of what Sean just hit on there, and how top athletes and business people and professionals use that first hour of the day to set the tone for the rest of the day. In the 5 a.m. Club, it talks about in your first hour of wake, you should sweat, you should read, and you should plan. And it breaks down. A lot of people get up at 6. If you just got up at 5 and did these 3 things, how much success you'd find. So, a resource to tie down to what he said.
One last thing on that, but I think it's huge. And this is business aside. One thing that changed me, and I did it over a year ago, is for that first hour, I use my phone, but I do not go on any social media. None. And again, my wife's in social work, so she kept showing me these studies of people. When you go online, you get the first thing, or even that first hour, you look at social media. Subconsciously, sometimes you'll see something negative, or something might have happened to a friend, or something in the world, and it automatically kind of derails your day from the start. It just puts some negative energy around you, that if you do not have that, you can focus, you just use it. So I use it for music. This morning I read articles, Wall Street Journal. I do that, but I do not go on social media in that first hour. It's made a huge impact on my mindset as I move through the day. It's tough to do if that's the habit, because a lot of times you roll over and it's the first thing you do. But man, if you can go that first hour, you will trend, and your day will have a lot more positivity in it.
Cool. Some quick actionables, resources for you to think about. What else through this process? What else, you're supposed to be, right, looking at a daily 10-4, right? Your contacts, conversations you're having, your note cards, and previewing properties, right? And I know that not everyone in here consistently did it every single day. I understand that, it happens. But what was that like when you moved the needle in that arena? What did it do for your business? What ahas did you have from it? Did it spur conversations that you didn't have previously? Yeah, please.
Just what I noticed is a problem with people, just calling people on the phone.
Yeah,
I was terrorized by that.
yeah,
By my third or fourth call, I felt comfortable,
yeah.
and I began to enjoy it.
Okay. What did you enjoy about it?
Just realizing I have a conversational personality. You know, I interact with people very easily. I laugh and joke easily, and they appreciated that. I listen well.
Yeah. The terrorized part of it, was it because you saw yourself as bothering them?
You know, I wasn't quite sure. You know,
Right.
just because I had
The
never
unknown?
done it before.
The unknown?
The unknown. Yeah. What's going to happen when I get on that phone?
Okay, good. Good for you. And by the way, there's still a little bit of that terror every morning, isn't there?
A little bit. Yeah.
However, you get into a flow, and by that fifth dial, it's like you're just doing your job now.
I've also found people are nice. They're not.
They can be.
One person out of 100 is going to curse you out. People are nice. You know, they're not all grouches and
That's
ogres.
right. That's right. Good. What else? What other ahas from doing some of these activities to move the needle? From some of our veterans or?
It doesn't matter how many years you've been in this business, you get burned out.
Sure.
So this kind of helps ignite me.
Unintended.
Yeah, really,
Yeah.
you know. I learned a few little tricks from the various teachers that we have had in here. So I just added more to my toolbox.
Good.
Always, in this business, you always got to be willing to learn and stay with the times and change. You gotta change,
Right.
because this business changes. And if you don't change with it, you're gone.
If you recall something I said to your point there in session 1, I said this. I don't care if you've been in the business 1 minute or 20 years. This industry is brand new to everybody right now.
Well, yeah, and the shift, I've been looking at this and struggling with that for the last year or so.
Yeah.
Because, our mindset, our old people's mindset, meaning people that have been in the business for a long time, we think of a shift as going from a seller market to a buyer market or vice versa.
So the type of the sales market.
Yeah,
Right.
but this shift is not that kind of a shift you're talking about. They're talking about how we conduct our business.
Correct. An industry shift.
Yes.
Yes.
And now that I've seen it happen and I didn't prepare for it, I suffered for it.
Sure. But now you know. And it's
Yeah.
it's that conversation. And I want to highlight this because this is huge. And that's a breakthrough for you. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing. It is because the shifts of sellers and buyers will still happen. Yes or yes?
Oh yeah,
Always. Okay.
always.
The industry shift happens how many times in an industry?
Once every 10 years?
Yeah, it's typically a generational cycle is what we typically see. And if you really think about in the industry of real estate, the fundamental industry from 1985 or so until today, there's probably been 3 shifts, 3 major shifts. There's been changes, but the first major shift was when your MLS books went to online MLS. That was the first major shift, okay? And so that was big for agents to get used to. That was a lot, okay? Going, oh my gosh, it's all on this computer now, and I got to look at the thing. Now today we don't think twice about it. That's the first shift. The second shift that we saw in this industry that was huge was a hyper focus on real estate teams and understanding what a showing assistant could be, or a buyer agent could be, or an admin could be, because traditionally the realtor did everything from A to Z. And so there was this shift. There was a lot of agents that team thing's a fad. That team thing won't last. That team thing won't work, okay? Well, guess what? I don't think teams have gone anywhere. Okay? Then the final shift we had experienced was the shift to online search. And originally it was online search not through MLS anymore, but through platforms like Trulia, like Zillow, and then others that popped up like Realtor.com, etc. And what happened was in this shift, that was about 10, 12 years ago, but in that shift, what happened was it wasn't agent focused anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was you're going to go to this website and then agents are going to pay to be on the platform. So we have had 3 shifts, MLS to electronic, MLSs. Your team focuses and the way in which we conduct our business and the online shift. And so this industry shift is the fourth major revolution we're seeing overall as an economy. But it's also the fourth disruption we've seen in the last 35 years. Does that make sense? And so you are a part of the foundational shift on this. Over the next 24 months, the rules will be rewritten completely. It is a 2-year window. When you look at the life cycles of disruption, it's about a 5-year window. And we're in year 3 of it now, of it actually coming to light. It's been going on for 10 years, but we're actually, it cycles up, and then it resets again. And then it'll be calm for 15 years. It will be. So if you can just weather this 2-year storm, this disruption, this change, which by the way isn't just changing real estate. It's already disrupted things like rideshare and fast food and social media. The way people consume their news has changed, hasn't it? There's no more, do people still get the newspaper? Absolutely. Did anyone see Warren Buffett sell his newspaper stake last night? Warren Buffett sold, he doesn't have newspapers anymore. He's 89 years old. He finally gave it away because he realized that the way in which we consume news and the way in which we consume product is changing. Yes?
I don't want to misquote you. I think a couple of weeks ago you said Gary Keller is spending something like 1.1 or 1.2 billion dollars
Has already
to
spent
compete against
a
Zillow.
billion. Has already spent a billion, like earmarked it,
Yeah.
and has another billion marked for it.
To compete with Zillow, right? Now you get these guys, tech guys, and artificial intelligence guys, are still saying real estate agents are a waste of money. They're an overpaid middleman. They're useless. We want to get rid of them. But what's their plan? How do they think they're going to do that?
Well, that is not an Ignite Session 12 topic. However, I'll give you the 60 seconds.
Okay.
You're gone. And if you remain, it's on these terms.
Okay.
I'm going to pay you for showing, pay you for a door. We're going to use Bluetooth lock boxes and virtual reality to give a tour, and you're going to write up the paperwork.
Okay.
You essentially become a transaction coordinator.
Gotcha.
The top transaction coordinators in the industry will make about 100 to 110 grand a year. Which, by the way, most realtors would be thrilled about.
Okay.
Because the average NAR is $45,000 a year.
Right.
So, what they want to come for, if you look at the VSCCO, View, Search, Contract, Close, Ownership, we've talked about this. The ownership stake is taken. You got Angie's List, Craigslist, Homekeeper, Nextdoor. You have all these platforms to get trusted and reliable contractors to work on your properties. It's already there, it's marketed, but the market's cornered. View Search is cornered at this time. Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, Realtor.com. What's left is the contract to close. These platforms don't know why the deals fall apart. They still need you to write up the contract itself per state laws and regulations. They still need you to access the specificities of the documents and the forms, the disclosures, right? All those things, they need you right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to partner with you. But where is about 75% of the money actually made? Here. So they have not come. You're fooling yourselves if you think they've only come this far to stop.
Oh, they're not gonna stop.
No,
They're not.
no, they're not. They can't at this point. They are ready to take a loss for 20 more years in the stock market and in their valuations to eventually eradicate a realtor.
That's the key there, is they are willing to play the long game. So right now, they almost just put up with real estate agents. And it's fine, their investors have made it clear. When they say, okay, 2024 is the earliest time we're ever gonna turn a profit, the next 3 days they raise $1 billion. So their investors are betting on the concept, not on the short-term need for a return on a profit. And unfortunately, when I sit, and our agents are very well educated on this, I have to say, but when I sit with agents from outside of Keller Williams, they think it's kind of an equal partnership, to where they'll be, oh, I work with Zillow, I get my leads from them, it's good, but that's not what their mindset is anymore. 10 years ago, that's what it was. But their strategy has changed, and they're public about it. They want to be the transaction service now. Not just where you go and buy a house, they want to handle the whole transaction. If you look at their strategic, when they're buying Dotloop, when they're buying title, they're buying mortgage, it's in broad daylight what they're trying to do. Trying to capture the entire transaction process.
Here's how you win as a realtor, whether you're on Zillow or not, and this is how you can apply it to your business right now. Zillow is not a hyper-local company that cares about our local community. I'll repeat that. Zillow is not a hyper-local company that cares about our community. If you have not worked in something to this effect into your listing or buyer consultations, you should. The reason you should list or work with me is I'm powered by the #1 sales force on the planet with a startup mentality in our hyper-local market. Every day I get up to serve my local community. I have a new idea or a fresh perspective. I know what's going on with the roads here. That's a pun. With our mayor, with elections, with schools. Yes, I know what's going on with De La Salle right now. I know what's going on locally. I care and invest in my community. That's why you should list with me. #1 sales force on the planet with a startup mentality locally that invests in our community. Something to that effect gives me chills to think about, yeah, I'd probably work with that guy over. So, look.
The two things that have kept us going with all of the .coms and Zillow and all that stuff is we have the value and they can't negotiate. But they're working on that. Okay, because they want to put us out of business. And the day comes, 20 years down the road, and they can show that they have the value and they can negotiate instead of us, we're done. Just like you said, we're done.
And where that changes, and I want you to hear this last piece as we get into the next part of our content. Here's the last piece of it. Brokers today in the stock market, they used to make some pretty nice bonuses, pretty nice commissions on transactions. Today, Fidelity and even others charge 0. How do they make their money?
Back end.
How? Do you know?
I don't study that stuff.
Okay. How they do it is, yes,
Yeah, front load, back load, those kind of things.
there's obviously backload, there's management fees and different things.
Yeah, when they sell the stock, they get the commissions that way.
Well, that's how it used to be, at a higher level. They still get a percentage point, but that has been squeezed down to next to nothing. And Fidelity, for example, has passed that savings on to the consumer by doing $4.95 trades. They have actually passed that savings on to the consumer in a lot of ways. What they've done is through the mass volume of consumers using their mobile app now, they can service more people quicker. So it's the Amazon mentality of more volume. And then yes, of course, stocks always have it built into the back end. Of course, they're going to make it through percentages and management fees. Yes, they still make that. But from the perspective, 10 years ago, a stockbroker would need about 1,000 people on their book of business to have a really nice living. Today, that can be upwards of 10,000. Does that make sense? Zillow does not want to pass the savings on to the consumer. They would tomorrow, if they could, put a billboard that said 1% will sell your property. But they wouldn't. On the back end, they'd bundle all the other services to make a profit. And there's parts of the country they're already doing that. So they're giving this idea that we're going to save you money, but at the end of the day, they're not. So what Gary's vision is, I'd like you to be able to sit in a listing presentation or face-to-face with a client and say, yes, we offer iBuyer too. Here's how it works with Keller Williams. Yes, we offer a zero-cost mortgage. Here's how that could work with Keller Mortgage. Yes, you get it? It's about you being the go-to expert, and that 6% commission gets you all these things. That's the vision. That's the idea. To your point, if somebody only purchases something 2 to 3 times a lifetime, I don't know if I'm going to do that through a mobile app. To be completely frank with you, a cup of coffee online, I don't want to talk to somebody at the barista, for example. But when I'm buying something that's $500,000 or $250,000, I want to make sure that I'm being represented, that I'm getting the best bang for my buck. Eventually, you could be in real time, in virtual reality, sitting with somebody across the country and never physically meet them and close a transaction. But I think there's always going to be a realtor present in that transaction. It's just going to shift in the way in which we operate. Does that make sense? It's different than travel agencies and baristas and rideshare. It's different. Uber to this day said they would love to be able to replace their drivers with autonomous vehicles. They still haven't been able to even move the needle on that because of issues with state laws and regulations and et cetera. So, Sean?
Yeah, just to actually really sum it up now, kind of like what he said. So if you look at, the purchases in the lifespan, say in this instance, there's 4 purchases, right? Say buy a home, sell a home here, buy a home, sell here, buy a home, sell a home here. What's happening is where Zillow is gaining traction is we're losing them along the way between these transactions. They're capturing them and selling them back to us. This is where the opportunity is. Look at a NAR statistic. So when this first transaction happens, they say, will you work with the same real estate agent again? Obviously, yeah, if it closed, a good experience, almost 80% said, yes, I'll work with that same real estate agent again. When the second transaction happens, less than 15%, actually think about that, less than 15% actually do. That's where the huge opportunity is. And to answer the original question, the answer that Gary Keller's vision is, to kind of sum up what John said, is an end-to-end platform, a true end-to-end platform that builds a moat around your people and does not let any third party in, be it technology or your competition with other agents. That's kind of the 30,000 feet up view of how you keep your people yours, is investing in that end-to-end platform that's based on artificial intelligence and predictive analytics.
And that's why it's so important to build relationships with people and not just treat them as the customer at one point in time.
Yep. Okay, let's get into some actionables. How many people have increased their number of contacts they're making in a week in their business since starting Ignite? They've increased it, okay. How many people have written note cards to some level or some effect while in Ignite? Have we seen anything happen from that? Have there been new relationships formed, new dialogues that have happened that did not happen prior to those 2 activities?
Yes.
Okay, so what I would recommend is that you go into what I call sustainability mode with that. What can I do to do that every day? I was working with a top agent here, and his action plan, he's writing 2 note cards a day, making 8 contacts a day. So 10 note cards a week, he takes 2 days off, and he's making 40 contacts a week, and he hits his goal for his business. So I want you to go into sustainability mode around that. Think about, just like Sean was saying, what are the activities every single day I must do? What I genuinely see is anywhere from 10 to 20 contacts, especially in your first couple years of business, because you have a lot more time on your hands right now than you would if you're selling 2 to 3 homes a month, okay? So getting to that 20 contacts a day or 100 a week will yield you a minimum of 1 closing a month if you do 100 contacts a week. So go with what you know. Do you like FSBOs? Do you like expires? Do you like contacts at the mall? Do you like coffee shops? Do you like phone calls? Do you like texting? Cold calling or dialing is not the only way to do it. It's just the most time effective. But there's other ways to do it. In your database, it's people that already know you. So are you practicing the Ford method? Who will tell me the Ford method? What's the Ford method? Family, occupation, recreation, drain. So how's your family? I care about your family. My family's doing well. Thanks for asking, right? How's work? You still have that 35-minute commute? They're naturally going to ask you how your work is. That's your perfect opportunity to talk 2, 3 things quick real estate. Perfect opportunity. It's a seller's market. Things are hot. I got 6 listings right now, or whatever. By the way, do you have real estate goals in 2020? Recreation. What trips do you have planned? How's Kyle's hockey tournament? Dreams. Do you have any dreams that you're working towards over the next 5 years? Last time we talked, you said you were going to be retiring in 2020. Is that still on track? By the way, where are you going to move when you retire? Ford method is a consistent, relationship-driven. The reason we're teaching Ford now, and if you've been with Keller Williams a while, we weren't teaching Ford a year ago, a year and a half ago, consistently. We would talk about it as a strategy. Now you're hearing us talk about it because it works. It's been proven to work across most personality styles. Most personality styles, Ford method. Having the dialogue, having the conversation with people across those 4 categories is what helps. Does that make sense? Good. So contacts and note cards. Who's been practicing scripts?
Reading,
Been reading them? Have you been practicing them?
just getting comfortable with the language,
Okay.
See what the keywords are.
Okay, great. What else? Scripts. That's where most people fall off. Here's what I want you to really think about. If tomorrow you could go anywhere on a road trip, would you just jump in the car and drive aimlessly? Or would you gas up, ensure you have your insurance, and probably map out where you want to go and the sites along the way? Most people, if you're not under the age of 24, which again, it's all good, I've done it in my life, they would do the latter. Your scripts are the preparation for your road trip. If you don't build scripts into your life, into your business, just like you just saw the results on contacts and note cards, each of you raised your hand and said, yeah, I saw that move the needle at some level in my business. Scripts will be like throwing gas on that. So what I encourage you to do is find a partner. You don't need a script for 15 minutes or 30 minutes a day. 5 minutes. I'd rather you stumble it through with another realtor who's trying to get better as well than with a client. Scripts will move the needle faster. What do you think about scripts? You've been getting more and more into that with different team leaders. And what do you think of your perspective? You're 108 days, I think, into this, right? What do you think of scripts?
So it really is. I mean, the script's kind of everything. And you don't even have, so for me, I don't role play. Obviously, I'm doing TL in the market center, so I don't even role play in person. So what I do is I have 3 role play partners, and it's just straight to business. With the three of us, we have a scheduled time. It's time blocked. I call. It's not, hey, how's it going? It's, are you ready? Ring, and we get into it. And it's 5 minutes. We go over 2 scripts. We try to do something new, and then I hear a script that's working for him. He hears one that might be working for me. We close with any tweaks we might want to make. We're off the phone, then we're into our lead gen. It's perfect. And again, that sets the tone for your lead gen. That's how I really recommend doing this. Whenever you're planning on doing your lead gen, do practice right before. Facebook private page is a great place. You'll see Nick Tracy, you'll see Kevin Hill, you'll see people posting on that Facebook page saying, looking for a role play partner right now. Who wants to role play? And that's it. It's 5, maybe 10 minutes. Work a couple of scripts, and that's your launching pad into your lead gen. Makes it a lot easier.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Instead of haphazardly asking people what their schedule is, or what's the best way to send a message company-wide, hey, I'm looking for a script partner.
Facebook private page, absolutely.
Facebook private.
Yeah, Facebook private page, post it. Just ask who's looking to role play.
By the way, you don't have to just role play with Lakeside agents.
Yeah.
You could be an EKW agent across the country too.
Okay.
And I recommend that you try and diversify who you're role playing with. You want to have young males, you want to have older men, females, right? You want all types, because people respond differently with their personalities and where they are in life to scripts. Your job is not to memorize the script. Your job is to internalize the script and make it your own. Anybody can memorize a set of words. You got to start there. But that's not where you stop. You got to get to where it's internalized, you know it's up here, and then you can execute on that script at a high level. So if you can't naturally get into something like, instead of saying, well, why are you moving? And shift it to, what changes in your life when you move? How does your life improve when you get closer to work? What's important to you about the new property, right? If you don't have those go-tos, you're going to stumble, fumble, become discouraged on the phone. Now listen, you're still gonna mess up, like all the time. But you'll bounce back quicker, and that's what I call grit. Your ability to bounce back. So that I hope that's an aha for some of you that didn't, I only had a hand on scripting. That's the key. That is the key for your next 30 days. You keep doing the activities of contacts, note cards, but now integrating scripting into your business. That's the key. That will help you get to where you want to go faster. And even doing it just twice a week, let alone 5 days a week.
The great thing too, is especially with the partners I have, is the honest feedback. So for example, when I practice my script, I've been told, Sean, that sounded really wordy. Or Sean, that sounded pretty recruity, that sounded pretty salesy. When you're just doing it with clients, a lot of times they're not going to give you that feedback. they're just not gonna give you what you want. And you might sometimes say, God, what is going on? It's a blind spot. We don't know what we're rambling on or when we sound salesy. So even just to get the feedback, when you know, okay, I need to tweak this here, shorten that up, that's huge too. Because again, when you're just calling your clients, there are a lot of times they're not gonna give you that honest feedback. You're just not gonna accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Okay, questions on that? Chris, you're a script offer.
Yeah.
What has Scripts done for your business?
It's blown up. I mean, I doubled it last year since my first 7 months in the field from the year before. So it's been really good. I mean, I've been slacking on it lately, but I'm on the phone a lot too. So I try to do yesterday like 50 calls. So it's a little low, but
How many contacts did you get out of those 50 calls?
that shit was high. 20.
That is high, wow.
That's high.
40%?
21. Wow. Well, I've been calling, so you know I've been working more. I'm working my Sphere a lot more.
Okay, yeah, so you are gonna have a higher, so if I were listening to that, I'd write that down and say, Sphere is probably higher conversion from contacts from dials, right? So you had 21 conversations or contacts, right? What did that yield you?
I set 2 consults and I sent 3 people over there.
Perfect. So you gave them an action plan to get them maybe pre-approved or look at where they are financially, and then you actually set 2 consults. Did you pick up any referrals or like callbacks?
I have it also, I'm practicing asking for a referral recall. It's hard, you don't think about
If
it.
it's not internalized.
Yeah, I'm like, but I did start doing that this past week. I'm, trying to remember to do it. And I had a lady have me call her back last night. She gave me a couple things.
Perfect. Here's a script that is unbelievable if you actually can internalize and apply this. That when you sign the listing agreement or you sign the buyer contract, right? You say something to this effect. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, the way I operate my business is I ask for my referrals up front. I'm future facing you today. That through this experience, I give such a world-class experience for you, and I do my best to treat you with the utmost respect, make sure it's smooth and efficient, that at the closing table, you'll come with 2 referrals from me. 2 people that may not be buying or selling in the next year. That's not your job to find out. But 2 people that you would want me to work with because you trust me so much. If you don't bring 2 referrals, I will ask for feedback about what I could have done better to earn it. That's ballsy. I mean, that is ballsy. That's balls to the wall, right? And what's wrong with that? The very worst that happens is they don't give you referrals and then they can't give you feedback and it's a little awkward and you move on. But if you say it that genuine and that purposeful and you say, listen, I want to, because what happens is if you wait till the week of closing or just after, they'll get back to you. They'll let them think about it. But if you put it right up front, after you sign the contract and you talk about how much service you're going to give them, imagine if you said, I expect 2 referrals at closing, the week of closing, and if I don't get them, that means I failed you. And I'd love to get feedback about what I could have done better.
And I think it gives the seller confidence in you, like, wow, this guy knows the seller. He already knows he's gonna have me happy at the closing table.
Yep.
So I think it gives not so much the referral being a benefit, but just the confidence now in the seller and what they think you're gonna do for them.
Yep.
So I think it works both ways. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Think of the power of when we look at the lead gen model too, and 33 touch when it comes to referrals. A prime example of this is the woman I work for my cars. I have a 2-year lease. So my car salesperson knows the exact date that my lease is up. She's still, I get 2 touches from her every single month. A text, an email, a message on Facebook, even though she knows I'm there. But guess what? If anyone right now asks me, Sean, I'm looking for a car, Andrea Pawlowski. I'm going to tell you her name because I got something from her last week. A lot of times we don't think that way. We think, well, I just sold that person a house, so it's probably a couple of years. If you stick to that consistency, you're actually working the referrals because wherever they're at, there was a 1 or 2 week span where you touched them in some way. It's huge. And even like I said, my car salesperson does that. And she's the #1 salesperson at Dean Sellers Ford in Detroit. It's part of the reason why. Again, we talk about those activities not a lot of people do. She's one of those people that doesn't, and it's at a high level. And honestly, and we think overkill, it's like, well, I don't want to plug them. I don't open over half her stuff. I expect it. It's every month it's on, there's another thing from Andrea. I just don't open it. But guess what? If you ask me something, I'm going to tell you about it. We don't think of it that way. We think of it as plugging or overkill or I don't want to bother these people. But it's really not when you flip it around. It's really not.
So on page 6, I would make a note, what we were just talking about there, I'd make a note that says, it's not just about the activity or task, it's about the process. So I had an agent I was talking to, so that would be with scripts specifically. It's not about the activity of the scripts, it's about the process of it. I had somebody, she calls me and she goes, and this blew my mind, she goes, we have pens in that drawer next to the sink. Yep, one of those 2 drawers next to the sink. We should have pens in there. We had pens. We had pens. Okay, so she calls me and she goes, John, I'm doing a client event and I'm not sure if I should do like this kind of food or this kind of food. And so we talked about it. And she goes, well, I'm not sure if we should do this kind of pie or this kind of pie. We talked about it. She goes, I'm not sure if we should do this kind of venue and this kind of venue. And I go, I gotta stop you. First off, how many more questions do you have? And so she kind of laughed. And she goes, I go, stop making it about the event. The event is the event. The event is a time and space, right? Think about all the touches you have before the event, after the event, and add it to build your business. Stop worrying about all these little details. You're a mega agent selling over 20 million a year, and you're worried about what pie you're going to serve? It's not about the pie, it's about the process. And that's when it resonated with her. She goes, oh my gosh, you're right. I don't care if it's pumpkin or apple. What I care about is that I'm building a relationship with my people, and they get excited that they can bring their family to something that's very low cost, instead of having to go out to dinner and spend $200. I go, there you go. It's about the why, without asking why. It's about motivating and cultivating that relationship. So scripts, please build that as a part of your business. Today is called Blast Off. It's called Ignite Blast Off. And the reason for that is we talk about a lot of the things we're reaffirming, things you've learned in this class to build into your schedule moving forward. So the activities of contacts, the activities of writing note cards, the activities of crafting scripts. How many people have grown their database since they've been in Ignite? How many people, who added the most amount of contacts, full contacts to their database? Who thinks they added the most?
Does it include creating farm markets?
Sure. How many did you get?
400.
400. Anyone beat 400? Okay, I got a $10 Starbucks gift card for you. Good job.
Don't drink coffee.
They have tea, they have sandwiches.
My wife drinks.
There you go. Joe? No. Okay. So, what's your goal to add contacts every day? Charles, do you have a goal?
To grow contacts every day.
Yeah. Do you have a plan?
My big thing right now is to start time blocking more. And that's very vague and specific, I know. But that and the scripts.
Go back to class 1. We talked step by step what needs to be on the schedule. Follow that. If you have 2 hours of lead gen on your calendar, break that up to an hour of lead generation with X number of contacts made. Then give yourself a 30-minute breather. Go reset. Go breathe. Get a cup of coffee. Then get into another hour with another contact goal. Instead of just the 2 because you aren't spending 2 hours lead generating. Guaranteed. Chunk that down. You should have email time on your calendar. You should have time block emails. You're going to look at your emails in the morning and the evening. You don't need to be on your email all day. It's a distraction from what you should be doing. If you want to check it 3 times, that's fine. Morning, noon, evening. You should have emergency time or flex time on your calendar for when those fires pop up and they interrupt your lead gen and they disrupt your big why, your life. Your life by design is disrupted every time you give great customer service. I'm sorry, but it's true. When that deal is going sideways and it distracts half of your morning and you don't lead generate, you're the one that pays for it 90 days later. Instead of having time blocked on your calendar, emergency time, you move your lead gen to that emergency time later in the day. That's replace, don't erase. And then, yeah, address the fire. Help your clients out. But do the lead gen later. If you don't have emergency or flex time on your calendar, guess what? You never do it. And then Monday becomes Wednesday, and you're like, I haven't even lead generated this week. Anyone relate to that? That's a very real thing. I know everyone in here can relate to it. I need you to understand what you said is key there about growing your database. Go beyond that. It's just about following a time block schedule. You could put scripting on your calendar for 15 minutes every morning, or at lunch, or every afternoon. Doesn't matter to me. Put it on your calendar. Follow the replace, don't erase method. It will transform your business. You want to become the self-start business owner that has no boss? Treat yourself like your own employee, and then you'll get there. Until you get to that level of discipline in following a regimented schedule, you'll never get there. And you'll find reasons to blame others or whatever. And some of them are valid excuses, aren't they? Some of them are absolutely valid. I'm not here to judge. I'm not the judge on what's valid or not. I'm just telling you that life happens, and you have opportunity to create a system to try and insulate and protect that as best as you possibly can. And one of the ways I do that is I have 3 hours of emergency time on my calendar, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mondays are always a disaster from the weekend. By Wednesday, I'm already behind on half my projects, and Fridays, I'm trying to breathe, okay? So I literally have 3 hours of emergency time, and I, every single week, fill it with stuff. I don't have enough, trust me, if you are following your calendar the way that you should be, you will fill that time. And if you don't, one of those 3 hours, guess what? You just got an hour back in your life. Go to the gym. Read for pleasure. Meditate. Call 3 contacts in your database. Go back to lead gen. Does that make sense intuitively? You are in control of that. But until you treat yourself like your own employee, you're never going to hit that next level. You're never going to break through. And you're going to be frustrated because you feel like you're hitting a ceiling. Thoughts on that?
Within reason, what's a very good tip to do, what I do is I prioritize my calendar by importance. So literally when I get up, I have a time block. Something very important to me is a half hour I can spend with my wife before we start our day. We have coffee together. That's time, I do that first. I then have self-time, whether it's reading or going to the gym. When I get in the office, the first thing I do is I practice a script, and then I get into lead gen. So the earlier on in the day, if you have your high prioritized activities, the less chance there is of something happening. There's not a big chance of me and my wife having coffee at 6 a.m. and me having an emergency or something. Could it happen? Sure. It's a lot more likely to happen at noon, at 1, at 2, at 3, at 4. Those chances increase as the day moves forward. So prioritize your day. The earlier in the day, the less likely there is for those situations out of our control to happen. That's, you summed it up perfectly. I know that's how I prioritize my day.
That's how you put it in action, absolutely. Yeah. Your rocks are in the morning.
I have family time on my calendar at 7. So when I'm on my computer and I'm just messing around or trying to catch up on something I'm already behind on and it says family time, I close my computer.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that important. I can do it at 5 a.m. tomorrow when I also have time for that at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder on your little pop-ups.
Yeah. In the morning.
Shut it.
That's exactly right. In the mornings, it's either, for me, it's either gym or coffee with Haley. It's one of the two. And this morning was coffee with Haley. She got a call from work already, so did I. We both said, hello, we'll call you back, we're in coffee time, down. We both did it. And it worked because what it did is it's improved my marriage in that sense, because now she's following the system that I was following. Just by effect, she started to follow it. And she goes, I'll call you when I'm in the car in a half hour, I'm having coffee with John.
When you make it feel important, it makes
Oh
everything
yeah,
better.
happy wife.
It works both ways. My husband likes to do that too.
Of course, because you feel valued. You just feel valued and respected. That's all it is. It's about value and respect. All right, last thing. So consistently growing your database is a piece of that, right? Interviewing successful agents. How many people have interviewed a successful agent in the last month? Who did you interview? Mr. Lou, okay. And what did you get out of it?
Well, I got the same thing out of Housing. I talked to Charles Stamou, I talked to Tom Lipinski, and I talked to, is it Stacy Pearden?
Yep.
They said, number one, don't reinvent the wheel. There's a method out there called Gary Keller's system. Follow that.
Yep.
Follow it closely. You'll adapt it to your own schedule, but they said it's in your lead generation primarily. This is a lead generation business. Your database is your business.
Good.
All four of them said that.
Okay, so, but in between those four you mentioned, they have over 100 years of real estate experience. I'd probably take those four things, or those big things, and put them on my calendar some way, somehow. So if they said database is your business, I'd probably time block an hour a day right now, saying call and build my database. 30 minutes of calling, 30 minutes of building. 30 minutes of calling, 30 minutes of building. That's what I would be doing as a part of my database. Get strategic on how to implement that. What else? Anyone else interview an agent?
I feel like I did in this class, I mean, we got a chance to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. Any other themes that you saw that Mark didn't mention?
No, same things. Time block.
Consistency.
Yeah.
The podcast I did with Stacy is dropping in March. So if you didn't, look for that, because that's an interview with a successful agent. Anyone else do an interview? You've had conversations with Glow.
Yeah.
What's he saying? What are some things that you're hearing him say consistently?
I've heard it from everyone pretty much. It's all about database. It's literally all about contacts.
Love it. Contacts, database. Okay.
And follow-up.
If you have not interviewed an agent or made that a part of your plan, I'd encourage you in the next month, do it. Post on the page, send an email, pick up the phone, call an agent, interview them. Got it? Interview them. Ask them what's their favorite book and why. What do they wish they would have done differently when they started? Did you know I had a very successful agent? She says, I never tracked, when I closed these properties. I've closed over 1,000 properties in my career. I only started doing it about 5 years ago, started tracking and putting them into my database. I lost out on almost 15 years of tracking clients. So you have the luxury of not making that mistake, right? Even if you only close 3 deals this year, as you're building up your business, track them. Put them in there. Do not lose track of who you're closing. So, Daily 10-4. This system, again, is kind of going to be going away, I believe, with the new Ignite. It's something we had talked about. Remember, what are the 4 activities we want you to do through Ignite? It's note cards, contacts, adding contacts to database, and what? Previewing homes. How many people previewed homes? What? Beautiful. People typically do that. What has that been like? Is the market different than you thought? Is it what you thought? I mean, talk to me about what previewing homes has been like.
For me, I was previewing homes and going to open houses, so I was previewing through the open house process.
Yeah.
And prior to this, I've never been to an open house, so the knowledge, being able to see the neighborhoods and drive them, just getting to the place, knowing exactly where it was, what the neighbors' houses looked like, was there shit in the yard of the neighbor's house or whatever, is it visually a turn off or not, was really helpful. On top of seeing how people handled their open houses was really good for me to see too, being something I really want to start doing, is holding open houses for other people, so I can meet my own buyers, etc. So
Yeah.
I found it to be really helpful.
Nice.
As well as I was using that Showtime thing.
Showtime.
I was using the Showtime just to look at some vacant houses. My girlfriend's in the market for some fixer-uppers, so anything that was vacant was just kind of going in, checking them out, getting familiar with how that works, and opening the lockbox.
Yeah, just have a comfort.
So when I have someone with me, I'll feel, I'll know what I'm doing and have an idea.
Good. What else? That's good. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Previewing.
With me, 25 years of doing this stuff, I've seen just about everything out there. So it's nothing new for me. But what I have done in this class that I haven't done before is I started previewing for sale by owner properties. I just hated doing it my whole career. It was a fear. So I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And throughout this whole class, I probably Been through at least a dozen for sale by owner homes, talking with the for sale by owners, slowly breaking them down, adding them to my database.
Good.
So that was something new that I
That's good.
started.
That's really good, because we've talked over the last few years about adding to that database and where to tap into, right?
Yep.
And so there's a new vein potentially that's there.
Mhm.
Good, very good. So previewing homes helped grow his database. That's cool. Think about that, right? What else? Previewing homes, what do you see? What are you feeling out there?
So I like going to the builders.
Okay.
Here and there, because I get to learn about the different construction techniques and stuff. I don't know, I just find that cool. And I think when you're with the client, you can share that kind of stuff, like even on the home that's already built, you know, like the silent floor system, stuff like that. I just think that's really good. And I preview homes a lot, like that I have showing for the upcoming weekend.
Yeah.
So I can, if there's a major issue, I can cut it right out of the list. It
Yep.
saves
Saves you time in the long run. That's huge. Previewing homes can save you time in the long run. If you've previewed that 123 Easy Street in Flosson, and you know that it's got you went and looked at it, and it's got a cracked foundation and a 20-year-old furnace, again, it's the best interest of your client, right? You're not going to necessarily, you're going to let them know, and they may, before even going with pictures, and you've already previewed it, you may not even have to physically drive there with them and see it, because they already know. So that's a really good point in terms of kind of getting focused. That might be more of a fixer flipper investor client, not that first time home buyer on a limited budget, right? So there's ways that you can save time in the long run through a system. It's all about having a system that you put into place. Yeah.
That's something else I noticed what Chris was talking about. In weeding out some of these properties.
Yep.
I've learned to look at the pictures online and dissect them, because I can spot things more now through the picture than I did when I'm at the house. For example, there's a stress crack in a basement wall, for example. Some of the agents, you'll see that in the picture.
Right.
You know, I might say, oh, okay, that's not going to be the cream of the crop. So I'm not even going to bother putting that into my showing. So it helps me save my time that way, because I'm cutting down on the amount of properties that my client's going to look at, just from that aspect alone.
Do you see how that's a question you could interview a successful agent? What if you found are the 3 best practices to cut down time to be more efficient in showing properties?
Yeah.
Because I've heard you can do X, Y, Z with photos on the MLS. Do you see the connection there? Okay, good. Very good. I want to get into getting your head in the game. I want to direct us to this screen. So if I am watching this at a later date, or I'm watching it online, this is what I'm going to be talking through, but we're actually going to get into some numbers in our funnel, right? So this is our lead generation funnel. So if you can flip to page 9 for me. The key with lead generation, I want you to write this at the top of page 9, consistency. 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 Here's why that matters. If you have option A or B, right? Bless you. Option A is a bold 100, meaning you're going to do 100 contacts in a 24-hour window. Bold 100. Okay, there's consistency. Or you're going to do 100 contacts Monday through Friday, 20 per day. Which one is better?
They're both good if you're consistent.
They're both good if you're consistent. Let's add to that. What does that mean? I just told you consistency is key, so that's right. But why? There's something important with this. Okay, it's a big takeaway. Bold 100 versus 20 a day. Which is better?
I like 20 a day,
Why?
because it builds a routine.
Okay. If you couldn't hit 20 a day, go ahead.
Because I have done the 100,
That
absorbs most of my day, and that's all I could do for that one day.
So where does a bold 100 serve a purpose?
It forced me to do what I had to do.
Bingo. Bold 100s can do a few things for you. And this is what I would be writing down as a part of the leads part. It can grow your leads count quickly. So if you are short on leads, a bold 100 can grow that. It can grow that. it can grow the number of leads that you need. So a Bold 100 serves that purpose. Another thing Bold 100 does is it allows you to touch a lot of people in a short amount of time. So if you're behind on your goal, it allows you to catch up. It's the only way you catch up is you got to increase your activities in the same amount of time, right? So that's another thing a Bold 100 does. A third thing a Bold 100 can do is it can motivate you. Simply by talking with more people, you may see more results in a shorter amount of time, right? Just like if you go to the gym for 2-a-days, for 2 weeks straight, twice a day, 2 weeks straight, you're going to see more results than if you were to only go once a day or once every other day. But is the 2-a-days sustainable for 6 months? For most people, it isn't. And that's where the long-term, long play, the consistent routine of 20 contacts would be better. And so what I want you to think about is imagine if you built in your business 2 to 3 times a year a Bold 100. A quick reset, a focus, a day where you just go for it. Maybe you find a buddy or a script partner, role play partner, and you do a Bold 100 together. You say, listen, we're gonna start, we're gonna do 4 hours of lead gen together, we're gonna go to lunch, we're gonna stop at the mall, talk to 20 more people there, and then come back and finish with however many contacts we need to do. Are you in? I'm in. And so that Bold 100 can almost be like your tune-up for your car, or that reset, or that opportunity to grow your, what?
Funnel.
Your funnel. You're growing your funnel to get more leads. And then through the year, you're consistently doing the 20 contacts, which is still 100 contacts a week. Does that make sense intuitively? This funnel here is the simple math-based equation to grow your business. And so here's the focusing question I want you to write down. Where you are in your business right now, answer this question. Do you have a lead generation or lead conversion problem? Where you are in your business right now, do you have a lead generation opportunity or a lead conversion opportunity? I would argue most people have a lead generation opportunity. If you simply do more, go fix your follow-up later. Go fix your conversions later. Go fix how you touch them later. Go build your marketing plan later. When Sean started, I didn't say to him, all right, in 60 days from now, you're gonna start making contacts. But until then, we're gonna build out your drip can plans, we're gonna order your business, we're gonna do all these things. He's still working on the drip plan with our team, isn't he? Because there's nothing to write down with this. Perfection's the enemy of profit. If you say, I'll make the contacts, I'll make the contacts, I'll make the contacts, when I'm ready, you'll never be ready. You'll never be ready. Instead of saying, listen, I'm gonna grow and lean into this opportunity. Consistent lead generation, saying how many contacts do you want to make to yield your necessary leads? That's your focusing question on the leads part. How many contacts to give you a lead? For some of you it'll be 50, others will be 10. Track that. There's trackable sheets on kw.com. There's sheets where you can literally say, for every dial, I get X number of contacts. For every contact, I get an appointment. Done. You just got your leads to appointments. Leads to appointments. Questions on that part of the funnel, just that top part before we get into the rest of it. Just that top part. The daily 20 versus the Bold 100 and how that should play a role in your business. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You're not going to be able to do, I mean, I don't want to put limiting beliefs on you, but if somebody could do a Bold 100 for 6 months straight, wow. Like I would probably want to shadow them. I would be like, how do you do it?
You're talking about doing one a month?
I think one a month is about the limit. I think it's doable. But I'm saying, imagine if for 6 months straight somebody did a Bold 100 every day. I don't know how they would do that. Oh, you would burn out. You would fall apart. The wheels would come off. You know, Jesus take the wheel. He'd take the 4 wheels, not the steering wheel. You would just bottom out. So my point is the consistency of 20 a day is much more manageable.
Most of us that have done the Bold 100 through our Bold class on average, it takes about 8 to 9 hours. And that's all.
About 12 contacts an hour is the average.
Yeah.
12 an hour. Some do it a little quicker, some slower. I think the longest I saw was 12 or 13 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. We get to appointments. So now you have this funnel, right? Anything to add on that, though, Sean?
No,
Now you have your leads, right? They're sitting there, you're cultivating them, and you need to get them to what? An appointment. Your goal is to get them to an appointment. So the question that you want to think about, the focus on your lead section to appointments is this. What value am I providing to get them to sit with me? What value am I providing to get them to sit with me? This is where scripting becomes so important. It's not just on the contacts to leads part. That's a different type of scripting. To talk to a warm lead or a lead given to you and get them to sit with you for an appointment, that's a different script. So this is where you would nail the script of, for example, Jane Smith, what's the one thing we could focus on in our appointment for you to leave it going, that was a good use of my time, it was a success? It's a pre-qual. So I want you to write next to that, pre-qual. Qualify these leads. Do not go meet somebody until you have a system of, here's what an appointment is worth to me. How many people have gone on an appointment? You're excited, right? You're pumped. You went on an appointment, and within 5 minutes of sitting, you time blocked 90 minutes for this, you had to drive there, all this stuff. You sit down, and within 5 minutes, you're like, oh, brother. This appointment's not gonna, has anyone ever been on that? I've been on that. I've done that. I've made that mistake a lot of times. So I want you, next to the leads to appointments, qualify it. So it's little things like, I'm looking forward to our appointment tomorrow. Are we still good to go for 9 a.m.? Don't drive off to Romeo, Michigan unless you know they'll be there. Now things happen, things pop up, I get that. But if you can get your show rate or effective appointment rate north of 80%, you're doing really well. And so then here's the myth that we tell ourselves of why we don't put a qualification system in place. Here's why. If I go on the appointment, even if it's a waste of my time and it won't yield me money, I'm doing the right activities that I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm doing something. It's easier to go on the appointment I already worked to get than go generate a new lead, isn't it? It is, actually. But what will yield you better business is what? More quality appointments that are qualified through quality leads. Yes, I say quality 4 times in a row. So what is your system? The focusing question. What is your system? What is the system to go from leads? When do they become an appointment-worthy lead? That's the question you need to ask yourself. What's your system? Maybe it's something as simple as I don't meet with a buyer until they agree to talk with a loan officer. There's an example. Okay? For a seller, you won't meet with a seller until both decision makers or all decision makers are present. So I'm sorry, I'd love to meet with you, John Smith, but Jane Smith needs to be there because you're both on it and you're not going to sell without Jane's approval, right? There's a system to approve it. Anyone else have a system they want to share with the group of how they help qualify lead to appointment and that appointment help? Do you have a system, Chris?
I mean, yeah, I typically like them to get approved. I mean, sometimes I'll ask them, I'll dig a little bit if they're not. I don't know if that's 100% you're supposed to do that, but I'm like, listen, you know, sometimes they'll tell you where their credit's at, sometimes they'll tell you kind of what their budget is and where they're looking. You can kind of think about it and say, I think this might work and I'll take a risk on it.
What's a question you can ask to quickly help move the needle on that? Because I have one, but I didn't know if you had a go-to on that.
Do I have a go-to? I mean...
So you haven't been able to dictate if they've been pre-approved or yet. They haven't come out and said yes or no.
Right.
What is the question you'll ask next?
Typically, I say, what's a comfortable, what's a comfortable payment? I ask that a lot, you know, because I typically know kind of, you know, from working with the loan officers and stuff, I have a general idea where they're going to fall and what they're looking for. And I know if they're like way off,
Yep.
get them in and reel them back in.
Okay.
To reality.
So you're doing some expectations there. You're doing what I call like fact finding and financial thermostating, seeing where they're kind of. That's great.
Okay.
Do you have a go-to question to specifically get a yes or no on it to moving forward?
Really?
I'm sorry?
Who's their lender?
Okay, there's an easy one. Who is your lender? Who are you working with? Go with what I call the assumptive close.
Gotcha.
Okay? That's a great one. And I know you do that, Chris. I know you do that.
You know, John, while I have you on the phone and you're discussing this particular house that you want to take a look at with me, question I had to ask you is, have you talked with a lender about getting pre-approved to see where you're at as far as how much money you're going to need to purchase this home and how much of a home that you can afford?
Yeah, good. That's good. That's exactly.
That's kind of how I.
That's good. It's again an assumptive close,
Yeah.
right? Here's a trial close you could do. If they say, well, no, I haven't, you could shift to, well, if I could put you in touch with an LO who can help with that, would you meet with them?
Yeah.
You're getting them into the action. And then you could say, and then would that help us make a decision on what to show? Yes, of course it would, right? Back to another example of that is you could simply just say to them, well, when you met with the loan officer, what were you pre-approved for? Just ask them. That's an example of who's your lender, right? When you met with your lender, what did they say? Well, I didn't meet with them. Oh, great. Well, do you know a lender to meet with? Now you know if they have somebody or not, right? You're fact finding. Your time on that phone to qualify for that appointment is so valuable, so valuable. And you can, of course, you put the transitions in there. I've been doing this, or if you have been doing this a long time, you say, our firm's been doing this for 20 plus years, right? And these are the best practices we have to make this as smooth as possible for your home buying experience. Here's another thing that you can ask, right? You could ask them this. Given your current financial situation, are you 100% certain you can purchase a property in that price point within the next 60 days? If they say yes, you say, well, how do you know you're 100% certain? Well, I have $250,000 in the bank. Oh, cool. Can we get a proof of that, proof of funds? We'll go show homes tomorrow. So you're not going to be using a mortgage to buy this property, right? You can go that way too. If they're giving you the rigmarole, you can literally ask them, are you 100% certain that you can purchase a property at that point in the next 60 days? And if they say yes, you say, how do you know where you're 100% certain? Did you meet with the LO? See how that's a transition? It's not about you versus them anymore. It's about the situation to get to what? Their goal of buying a property. Good? Do you see how? So having that system. So if you don't have a checklist built, there are checklists online with KW where you can literally have a pre-qualifying system in place. Peggy, was it lawnmowers and lawn care, right? Question. Were there questions you'd ask a client before you'd send your crew out? What's one example question you'd ask them? One or two? I call you up, I go, I'm interested.
Outside the box.
I would ask if you've hired a professional in the past to do the work.
Why did you ask that?
Because I want to know if they have the money to pay what it costs a professional.
So do you see how she didn't come out and say, do you have the money to do it? But she asked, well, what's your experience with a professional landscaping crew in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Have you done it in the past? What else did you ask her?
Like for us, like a qualifier would be like, I'm not just going to come out and cut your lawn. So I would say, what all services, we have offer packages, what all services would you be interested in?
Good. So
And
you're
kind of
not
find out.
financial thermostat, right? You're trying to see what else is there.
Mhm.
How many packages would you provide typically?
Well, we like to do full service, so we're going to do garden bed care, shrub trimming, and we'll throw the lawn, we'll do the lawn cutting just because we're going to be there.
But wouldn't you say most of the people calling you start with the lawn as a need?
Yeah.
And then okay,
Yeah,
good.
then I go from there.
Did you do snow as well?
Yeah, we'll do snow too.
Okay. So you'd probably try and look at all
So
season
like
capture.
even snow, it's a qualifier, like, we'll come out and do the snow as long as you're doing, de-icing services, is that something you're interested in? If they say no, then.
You move on.
I gotta put it, yeah.
You move on. So all those people were a lead, weren't they?
Mhm.
But they weren't all qualified leads.
Right,
Okay,
right.
that's an example of a system. You see that? Well done. It's a system. It's to save you time in the long run. It's what most people we don't talk about those enough, I think. The systems around them. Any other questions on that before we get to agreements? Anything there?
No, I just know for me, it's the same thing when I'm sitting with other agents. It's trying to qualify the appointment, so I'm not wasting my time. So for me, it's as simple as sending a text the day before that we have a lakeside video here. If you haven't viewed that video, it's a 10-minute video on YouTube. If you just YouTube Keller Williams Lakeside, it tells our story here. It's a great resource that you can send to a potential buyer or seller that you're going to work with. Again, if you're new, whether you're new or been in business a long time, it tells kind of has a personal side to the business. And I kind of use that to leverage more appointments and increase my show rate.
Yeah, I know, I met with someone the other day just to like explain the process and the importance of getting pre-approved.
Yeah.
And I guess you're saying that's something you could kind of do over the phone. I mean, I could, but I thought meeting in person with them was maybe better.
I want to be very clear on something.
And I didn't overstep my bounds. Like I told them, I directed them to like our mortgage guy, Doug, you know, and I told them, you know, mortgage isn't my expertise, but it was a way of me to meet with them and start getting a conversation going.
That's great. So there's a line there, right? There's a line there. What I've more heard of what you just said is that's a nurture. It's a relationship that you're forming, and it's something that you're practicing in. In 5 years, you may be at a point where you're not going to go on that appointment, where somebody on your team would. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying don't get in front of your people, and I'm not saying, and I know you're not, I'm just being clear.
Yeah.
That's a nurture, that's a relationship touch, and it's a conversation for you to get better at your craft. Eventually, could that be a FaceTime conversation or video, or could it be a call? Probably. But you're practicing, right? You're growing. And you're gonna have what I call as your 1%. It's what I call like your VIP treatment of people you always meet up with face to face. Because they give you consistent business, consistent referrals, it's your go-to people. And that person might turn into that. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that there was more to, you weren't just going over that process. You talked about what their plans were, and so there's benefit to that. After that process, after that sit down, were they an A, B, C, or D buyer?
How do you mean?
So that's a system, right? A would be within the next 30 days, they're writing contracts.
He told me 6 months to a year.
Okay, so he's probably more of a C buyer, right? So there's something for you to ask yourself. As you're getting from appointments, it's a great segue, appointments into agreements, and you're looking at, you just had the lead, you've qualified them for an appointment, and now you're talking with them, you want to ask yourself, is this an A, B, C, or D, or is it a 10, 9, 8, 7? A's or 10s are 30 days or less, we're starting this process. They've met with PLO, they're 20% down, conventional, they're ready to roll, right? It's money in your pocket, and they will be out of your transaction in the next 3 to 6 months. B buyers are people that might need a little bit of time. Maybe they need a couple more paychecks under their belt to get financially set. Maybe they need to get their house deep cleaned. Maybe they're waiting. Maybe it's April and they're waiting for school to get out by the first week of June. So you might start some pre-listing things, right? But they're not going to be an actual executed agreement, an exclusive right to sell, for maybe a period of 60 days. That's your Bs. Cs are more than 3 months. C's are your future business. So A's and B's are what you're going to be focusing on, and C's are, I'm dripping on you, I'm staying in touch with you, we have a plan in place to get you to be a B or A. So a C could be, okay, in the next 30 days, you're going to do 2 things. You're going to stop moving money around to all your accounts. 2, you're going to meet with an LO and look at what you can actually purchase. We're going to look at your debt to income ratio, and we're going to make an informed decision about how much you want to spend. And that's all we're going to focus on for the next 30 days. We'll know if we need to do any credit repair by that, right? Does that make sense? And so then after 30 days, that C might become a B. Okay, good. We did the proof of funds. We did the credit repair. We did the pre-approval. And now we're ready to start the process of, here's the 3 things we want to look for. Let's set you up on an MLS search. Let's see what's coming up in your 4 primary cities you want to be in. Let's start previewing homes potentially, because now you have your pre-approval letter, right? Does that make sense? You're beginning that process.
Well, what that all boils down to is like probing and asking them all kinds of questions. I'm doing this to see what I need to do to bring them from a D to a C to maybe a
Chunking
D.
it down. Yep.
Because in some cases, I'm stuck in this leaks for another 9 months.
Right.
So I can't move them up.
Right. There are, and that's a good point too. That's a good point too. As you're probing in the pre-qualified appointment, you're making it harder and harder for them to move down the funnel.
Yeah, I want them up.
You want them up, right? You want them up. So you're making it harder. So like if they're in a lease for 9 months, you're not meeting with them again. You're going to touch on them You're a system to stay in top of mind, but you're not, why would you go meet with them every week? But if you have an A buyer that's pre-qualified and ready to roll, you're gonna be touching base with them every other day and meeting with them probably weekly, aren't you?
My parents gave me 2 months to get out.
Right, yeah. So my point is you have a system in place around that, where you can literally pre-qualify that next phase. And then D's are your long-term nurturers. They're your long-term nurturers. They're just, credit is not there, like they're broke as a joke, but that you know that eventually it's gonna be there, so you have a long-term drip plan. You wanna keep, by the way, for all A's, B's, C's, and D's, you wanna stay top of mind. You want them to know you're a realtor. A's and B's, you want them to specifically know you're a realtor that can help them now. And C's and D's, you're a realtor that loves to help people achieve home ownership. Does that make sense? It's just about urgency and time frame.
What I've done with those D buyers, especially if they have credit issues and things of that nature, get with your lender, because your lender will help them repair all that stuff. So I put that on the lender and let them work on all that. And then I'll just kind of keep in touch with them periodically to see how they're coming along in that process. That way I delegated that to somebody else and I'm not absorbing my time dealing with that and taking it away from my A buyers.
Exactly, and here's the cool part about that. If you have a system with your LOs, for example, on your C's and D's, every 6 weeks you could have a time block to meet up with your LO and go over that list. And that's how you can work to cultivate, your goal to leave that appointment, bring them new C's and D's to work on, leave with a handful of B's and potentially A's that they've been working for you. Now, can you pick up the phone and touch base and get leads sooner than that? Of course, but put it on your calendar probably at least 6 times a year, at least, where you sit down face to face for 30 minutes with that LO and go line by line with every person. Because if Sally Sue moved to Russia and has ghosted you guys, get her off your list.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, all you're doing is this. Because that's where you make it. You're not paid per lead. You're paid per closing. So that's a good point. Having routine, and again, when we talk about time blocking, having the right things on your calendar so you don't even have to think about it. It's like when you pull your clothes out the night before. You wake up, come home from the gym, whatever, you put them on and you're out the door, right? That's why the most successful people like Gary Keller and Mark Zuckerberg and these people, they wear the same time. I said Mark, yeah. They wear the same thing every day because they don't even want to waste time thinking about it. We're kind of matching today, hat and stuff, but the point of the matter is very simple. Life is stressful and hard enough. So just like in your personal life, when you systemize things to make it easier, systemize your business to make it easier. Because eventually you're going to need help. You're going to need an admin. You're going to need somebody else to cover your business. And if you can show them a system you've already done, the level of customer service that you give, even if you're not present every day, and it will be continued. If you leave for a 2-week trip, they can just plug into your system. So if I were you, I'd be thinking about, on this page, what systems do I have to put in place or improve upon to continue doing this? Where is your greatest opportunity? So let's do a quick poll in the class. Show of hands. Is your greatest opportunity with leads, appointments, or the agreements and building a system around that? Who says for their business over the next 30 days, it's leads? A system around leads and pre-qual. Okay, that's what most people. Who has one that they're going to focus on? They already have this, they're going to focus on appointments. Okay. So there we go. There's your homework. On page 9, your focus is what is your system for pre-qualifying? I gave you several today. And maybe that's your focus to interview a quote-unquote successful agent. Ask them, what is your system for the leads? What is your system for appointments? Was that part helpful in today?
Yes.
I want you to really think about that. You'll move the needle in your business. Okay, agreements to contracts. Anything else on that? Okay, last part of this funnel to get you paid. Once you execute an agreement, right? there's things that you can massage, like we talked about earlier, like when I give you a world-class experience, I'll expect 2 referrals at the closing table. If we don't have that, I'm going to expect that I can improve my system or my experience for you as the seller. So I will ask for feedback regardless, but especially for improvements if I don't get 2 referrals. Right? That's a system technically, right? Okay. Here's what I want you to think about. What do you think is the greatest complaint that comes across my desk about you guys from the clients once you've executed an agreement?
Never hear from them.
Yeah.
Communication.
Lack of communication. Number one, I mean, by far, if I could show you a pie graph, communication's up there, and the rest of the issues are down here. Here's some systems. I want to give you some ideas of some systems that you can put into place so you don't make that mistake. One of the first questions you should be asking, by the way, it should be in the what? Appointment. It should be in your appointment. You should be future pacing, like you asked earlier. You should be able to future pace, what does this process look like? And at some point in that process, you ask them, Mr. Seller, I'd like to ask, what's your method of preferred contact? Is it text message, email, or phone call, or is it face-to-face? Great, I appreciate that. Let me ask you this. Do you like to be notified via your preferred method of contact when there's updates, or do you want an update that there's no updates? Because I have all types of clients, and I want to serve you in the way that you want to be served. Okay, so I hear that you want to be updated every week via a text message, regardless if we've moved forward in the process. Is that correct? Am I hearing you correct? Okay, great. Is there anything else I can do to help you with effective communication? Is there anything else I can do that is important to you? Tell you a tangible story that ties to this. I had a client who was a referral friend that I referred to an agent in the office, and he was type A, almost like engineering type, right? Black and white kind of guy, pre-approved 400,000, had to sell 250 to buy 400. I mean, we're talking, you know, should have been what I think would be like a slam dunk kind of transaction. But in real estate, nothing's guaranteed, right? So I told the referring agent, I said, this was 2.5 years ago, I said to the agent, this is how he is, but feel him out. I paired you guys based on personality. I think you'll work well together. They absolutely hit it off. I mean, I don't even know. My friend will never call me again. Like, he's just gonna, you know. So, absolutely hit it off. So the transactions happened and all worked. So I asked the friend of mine, I said, what did they do well? And he said, well, one of the questions they asked in the appointment that just totally hit off with me is they asked the question of, how often would you like me to communicate? Is it daily, weekly, monthly? Is it when you need updates or not? And he said, I don't want to hear from you at all, except if we're moving forward. That's what he said, right? That's what he stated. But what he actually meant when he said that is I don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
So what the agent still did was every single week said, no need to respond. I haven't heard on an update. I'm working diligently for you. Did the agent break the rule that he set with the client? Technically, if you looked at it from the way, yes, he technically did, but he didn't. Because he qualified it. No need to respond. I'm simply letting you know I'm working diligently on these 3 things. Have a great night. The engineer, my friend, he loved that. And he was a product manager. He had to have control, okay? He just didn't want to be bothered with, well, I'm thinking of doing this, and I'm thinking of that, and I'm thinking of an open house. No. Just tell me about results. And then, of course, that was weekly on Tuesdays. It was, he called it like Touch Base Tuesdays or something. I don't know, something like that. But it was a system. It was a system to look at, we're in agreement that we're going to list. We haven't gotten any offers to get into contract yet, right? We don't have an offer yet. But we're having a system around the process, touching base through the process. So those are some questions. Those are some systems that you can put into your business. And the MREA does a really nice job. If you open up the MREA and you go into that book and you look at the management of leads, from leads, listings, and leverage, it will talk to you about ways that you can improve systems around that to make sure that you're seeing issues before they pop up. So the leads, listings, leverage part in MREA is kind of an overview. And if you move over to Shift and read Bulletproof the Transaction, chapter 11, I believe it is, it's 20 pages, but bulletproofing the transaction is essentially everything you need to do from appointment on. How you can increase the chance that the deal won't fall apart. You're never going to get to 100%. There's things out of your control. However, there are things that you can do to expedite, speed up, or ensure that the issues that pop up aren't mountains, they're just speed bumps. So I gave you one earlier, right? When I said stop moving money around. Why would that matter? Why does that matter, moving money around?
For the loan? For the loan?
Yeah.
Oh, because that can send up red flags to the underwriter at the lender's office, and that can prevent you from purchasing a property.
Sure. I've had clients that have about 10 different bank accounts, and they literally, it might not be a ton of money, it might be $50, but every month they're moving money to save it, and it's earmarked for whatever, I don't know, college, let's say. And so when talking with that client, saying, listen, I'm no loan officer. I need you to talk with the loan officer, but one of the things that I'd like to get an answer on that I want you to ask the LO is, with your 10 accounts, does it matter that you're moving money around or not because it's in the same banking system? Like, do you see how you aren't the expert giving the advice, but you're asking the right question so you get an answer? That's all it is. Because if it's Ally to Ally or Huntington to Huntington, it may not matter. But if it's Huntington to Ally or Discover or Chase, it will. Of course it will, right? Because it's unproved. Mom could be writing me a check, and I can't actually afford the mortgage payment. So do you see how that's a systemized question that you ask, or you build into your needs analysis to protect this? Is this resonating? So you want to think about what are the questions that you're asking to improve that flow. And then ultimately what happens? You close. Ultimately you get paid, which is the best part, because your homeowners, you get paid, which is awesome, but the best part is they achieve their dream of home ownership. And you get to be the person who brought it together. And there is no greater feeling than seeing that first-time buyer, that empty nester, that elderly person downsizing. There's no greater feeling for you to be that fiduciary that walked them through that process. So if you aren't capitalizing on that great moment, even if it was a headache to get to the closing, if you're not capitalizing on that moment to get more referrals, you're missing out on a good opportunity to build that into your system. Because it's not about the transaction, it's about the amount of people you can help. So let's break down the numbers now, and we'll open up for dialogue. On average, here's what I see. This is what I see on average. What I'm going to walk you through briefly is the contacts to leads, to appointments, to agreements, to contracts. Okay? For every 100 contacts, which is above this lead, it's not even on this. It's not even on this funnel. For every 100 contacts that you make, you're going to average between 5 and 10 leads. On average, for every 100 contacts, you'll get about 5 to 10 leads. Now, when I say leads, these are truly pre-qualified leads. It's not just the, my cousin who's 18 wants to buy 15 properties type of lead, right? I mean, that might be a true statement, but what they left out is in 10 years. So, contacts leads about between 5 and 10, 5 to 10%, okay? For every 100, 5 to 10. From leads to actual moving through the funnel appointments, right? For every 10 leads that you have, you're going to yield 1 to 2 appointments. 1 to 2, that's it. For actually every 10 leads that you have, and I'm talking, these are your A and B appointments, not the long-term nursery, right?
1 to 2. So 100 to 10 to 1. Do you get what just happened there? Okay. Then for every, now you're on your appointments. For every 10 appointments that you're going in, this is where I want you to write on the right-hand side of this, if you're putting the numbers in, on the right-hand side, this is where experience comes into play. Because you can skill build yourself up on every part of the funnel, but especially face-to-face over an hour-long appointment, skills and the soft skills and being able to close, that's where you can increase this. So if you're brand new, typically without the sales experience and working a database and working clients, what I typically see is for every 10 appointments, you're going to get between 2 and 3 agreements. For every 10 true appointments, you're going to be at that 20 to 30% clip. And you're going to learn a ton from the 6 to 7 or 8 that don't work with you, okay? If you're a little bit more experienced, I usually say 3 to 5 years or more, especially with sales, you can be as high as 8 out of 10. Okay? So that, I can't give you an exact on that. It's going to be as low as about 2. If you go on 10 appointments and get 0, I'm going to have a hard time with you about maybe this isn't the right. You're going to get 1 to 2, okay? But typically, the highest I see, I don't even see like Stacy Pearden getting 10 out of 10. But I'm seeing 80%, 85%. Does that make sense? So that's accurate, that's factual there. 10 to 2, and your opportunity is to grow it to 8. And by the way, it might be a little different with buyers, might be a little lower. That's where the statement buyers are liars come from. I believe we just don't ask great questions to qualify them on the front end. Buyers don't know what to tell you, right? Sometimes. Okay. So this can be anywhere from 2 to 8, the agreement. Then for every 10 agreements that you have, so you've agreed to sell or buy real estate with this person, those are typically going to yield you anywhere from 5 to 7 contracts. 50 to 70% of the time, your agreements will get into contract. 50 to 70% of the time. So you're gonna have an exclusive listing, or you're gonna have a buyer agency. Between the 2 agreements, which do you think less time typically goes to contract? Between the 2 agreements, listing agreement, buyer agency, which one typically doesn't come to contract more? Buyer, yeah, all the time. You might need to re-sign the buyer agency, or the buyer might say, we're not buying at this time. Once a seller lists a property, it's much more infrequent that they wouldn't relist if it expires, right? But still, they might not list again. But your buyers there's more work to get a buyer to a closing table typically than a listing. It just is. There's more to happen, etc. So for every 10 agreements, it's anywhere from 50 to 70%. If you break it down sellers and you break it down buyers, usually it's about 8 out of 10 will sell on the list side, and about 5 or 6 out of 10 on the buy side. Okay? And then you're paid. Very rarely, I would say for every 10 contracts you execute, 80+% of the time you get paid. Now the closings might get delayed, but very rarely are you within a week or 2 of closing and it falls apart. Does it happen? Yes, it happens. But it's not going to happen 50% of the time. It's a smaller amount. Any questions on it does happen though. It does happen. I see smiles. So any questions on the funnel and the breakdown of numbers or how that works? Anyone need me to repeat a number? Does it intuitively make sense?
Yes.
So if you have this in front of you with your systems and your scripts, I want you to think scripts, the systems and pre-qual left, and your goals. This is what should be in front of you as you lead generate. So maybe you revisit this right before you get into lead gen. Then you hop into lead generation and you have your scripts in front of you and you're internalizing and you're tracking the necessary conversational points. So as you dial, you're marking that off. If they answer, you're circling it. If you set an appointment, you put an A. That's a system, isn't it? A slash for a dial, a circle for a contact, a conversation, an A for an appointment. Flip it over for that A and you write their name, where they live currently. If you got the price point, did they talk to an LO? You can have the same 8 questions you ask people before an appointment. Good? You get that point? Understand how this is more than just a graphic? It's an actual workflow. Because if you brought this to me in 6 months and said, John, I'm doing the contacts, I'm doing the leads, I'm writing agreements, or appointments, and I just am not executing agreements, I promise you, if you can bring this and show me the math, I will go with you on your next appointment. I'll help you close it. Because I know you're not asking, I would give you homework to read page 100 of Shift, the 10 ways to close a client. Page 100 of Shift, the assumptive close, the trial close, the hard close, the takeaway close. I mean, and these aren't about, by the way, page 100, as you read the pages before and after that, a couple pages on the closes, the 10 ways to close, it's not about you, it's about what the client prefers. I'm going to repeat that. When you close a client, it's not about you closing them, it's about what they prefer to be closed with. So if somebody, I'm going to say this part with Sean here. Every single time I secured an appointment as a team leader, I would end the appointment and I would say this on the phone, right? I don't care if it was a day or 4 days or a week out, I'd say this. Sean, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, insert date, to ensure a good use of our time. What's the 1 or 2 things we must accomplish in this appointment for it to be a success in your eyes? They state what it would be. I repeat it to them. Great. So when we cover lead generation in your business and effective ways to consistently do that, that's a good use of your time, right? Great. And then on the phone I would also say, do you want to know what I'd like to do to make it a good use of my time? They always said yes. I'd like to get to know your business better and get to know what makes you operate at a high level, regardless of the flag you're flying for real estate. And that was it. I pre-call the day before, confirm the appointment. They show up. Here's the next system. They're handed an iPad. We ask them to fill out the iPad. I collect information. They're greeted in a professional environment, coffee, water. It gives them time. The iPad is not just to collect info, folks. It's to make them pause and think about why they're there. They're probably nervous, aren't they? They maybe are busy because they have all these clients blowing them up. They're an experienced agent. It makes them pause. It makes them take in the office. There's much more to the iPad than just we're collecting info. By the time they hit submit, it's the second time I've asked them, what do they need to talk about today to make it a success? So when that email comes back to myself as a team leader, before I sit with them, I'm reviewing the notes of what they said to me on the phone, and now I'm checking for alignment of what did they put on the iPad. Why am I doing that?
That would be the same. The language seems to be the same. What they said then, that they say.
I'm going to change that a little bit. I just want to see if they're the same.
Oh.
Good point. I just am checking for alignment, and I want to interrogate if it's different. Why? Without asking why. And if it is the same, I know that I've nailed their pain point. Does that make sense? So what is your system on the phone and in the appointment to check that? I want you to think about that, okay? Then when you're sitting with them, you're asking focusing questions. And this is how I started every recruit appointment when it was one-on-one, okay? I'd look them in the eye. And I'd say, Carla, thank you for taking time to sit with me today. This is the most important meeting I have. Would it be all right with you if I took notes? They always say that. They're almost, they get the chills a little bit. They almost feel like they don't know how to respond, because in our 2020 society that's so crazy, to just look like that and ask that genuinely and ask permission to take notes, they're blown away. Blown away. Thank you. Then I say, I noticed from our phone call and today's notes when you checked in that lead gen is something you'd like to cover. When we cover that today, as well as get to know each other and your business a little bit more in depth, if we do that successfully, would you consider today a win? A good use of your time?
Absolutely.
Great. And if I'm able to show you an environment here at Keller Williams where we can actually solve that problem, would you just consider Keller Williams as a brokerage to work at? I just did a trial close in the first 30 seconds of sitting down. I just thermostated, where is she at? If she came back, absolutely not. I'm loyal to my broker. I know what to do moving forward. I'm narrowing how to close her later. And I'm getting to know her better. I'm building trust and rapport. Then I'm asking a series of questions. Would you describe your business as growing, declining, or flat over the last 12 months? What about your daily activities are impacting that outcome? Not why is it, but what about your activities? What's the single largest issue you're experiencing in your business? Let them talk. Great. What's your plan to address that over the next 60 days? Great. You don't have one, or you do. If you do, who's helping you? Why can't you say that to a client? Mr. Seller, what's your single largest frustration with the home you're currently living in right now? What's the single largest frustration about where you're living? Great. What's your plan to address that in 2020? Great. Who's helping you do that? Mr. Seller, if you could change one thing about your neighborhood, what would it be? Is the home or neighborhood that you're currently living in still serving the purpose it served when you moved in? Those are the kinds of questions you should be asking your clients consistently, on the phone and in person and through the process. Does that make sense? I hope this doesn't feel top down like but I'm giving you things that I have seen. I've probably talked to 1,500 agents at this point in my career. And these are the questions that move the needle. These are the questions that help. But if you haven't gotten to a point where you're practicing, there's your opportunity. Time blocking, writing 5 questions a day that don't start with why, that start with who, what, where, when, and how. Get to the why without asking why, and you'll become the best realtor they've ever seen or talked to. I promise you.
Can you say that again?
Get to the why without asking why. Get to their motivation without asking why. Kids ask why. Why is the sky blue? Well, why? Well, why? Well, why? Subconsciously, if not consciously, clients don't like that. It feels interrogating and machine gunny. When you get into the who, what, where, when, and how, and get those questions to still go to motivation, you win. How does your life improve when you move to within 20 minutes of your work? Well, walk me through that. Tell me more about that. Oh, you get to cook dinner with your kids 3 days a week. How many dinners have you had in the last 60 days with your children? It's a pain point. Moms want to be, and dads want to be there with their kids, don't they, right? They don't want to drive 60 minutes a day.
There's a way to practice that too. I know, John, you do an exercise every day through Maps, right? Where you literally write down every day 5 questions that don't start with why. Every single day.
I've been doing it for 1.5 years.
When I'm talking with somebody over the phone and I'm asking them a series of questions for like a listing appointment, whatever, I'm only talking to the one person. When I get to the home and I start going through my presentation, the very first thing I do is when I sit down at the kitchen table with them, I ask them permission to continue on with my presentation. I have 5 different steps that I go through. And step 1 is I'm going to ask a lot of questions. It's what we call OTA, okay? Coming to preview attractions, okay? And then I'll give them, like, step 2 is I'm going to go through your home, and I'm going to, step 3 is I'm going to go over how we market properties and blah, blah, blah. But when I'm at the house, I have all the decision makers there.
Right.
So I'm going to go over those questions again to have them elaborate a little bit more to me on why they want to do these, or when you want to sell your home, what is the purpose for it, how long, things of that nature, because the other person that I didn't talk with before is going to give me their input as well, so now I have more information on how I can communicate to all of the decision makers.
That's brilliant. And here's one more thing you're doing, and I'm sure you would have voiced it if I didn't just cut you off. You're also checking for tonality, body language, and how to react. Yeah,
always.
And so that's huge, because how much of communication is nonverbal?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Nearly 90% is nonverbal. You have tonality in there, you have body language in there, you have a lot of other things.
That's why I always prefer to be face to face with somebody.
Sure.
Texting and emails, I'll do it, but I prefer
Sure.
face to face or phone conversation because I can get their feeling, how they're feeling towards something. And that way I can communicate with them in a whole lot more personable way with them.
Everything we just spent,
That's my value.
the last 20 minutes we just spent right now on, with the systems and the questions and the relation, is what Zillow can't do. Do you understand that? That's your value.
Mhm.
Where's your ahas right now? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Because the room feels like it's in the thinking mode right now. Like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking. Where are you at right now mentally? Ahas, takeaways, questions.
You explain things a whole lot better and easier than I can explain them for myself, but I do the things that you talk about.
Sure.
Because it's just natural for me.
Sure.
You know?
Good. What else? Ahas, questions, takeaways.
I think coming into the whole business technology scared me.
Yeah.
But what really, all the success that I've had is based on the relationships that I've built. And the rest, I figure out. I ask Al, or I'm learning as I go along.
Sure.
But I don't let it freak me out.
Sure.
It did at first. I was like, I can't do this. I'm too old. My kids have to show me how to get on my computer. But it's building relationships, and it's really helped.
The one thing too that, because it is overwhelming and scary, is one thing to keep in the back of your mind is that the technology that's disrupting the real estate industry right now is not new to the consumer experience outside of real estate, if that makes sense. We have been exposed to predictive analytics and AI for the last 10 years. Think about when you Google something, when you say something, even when sometimes you think of something and you see an ad for something pop up on your Facebook, right? You're like, how did that get there? Now it's just real estate's turn to be exposed to that technology, where if we do this right, you align yourself with the right people, Gary Keller, who is using this technology, it can actually now help us and give us, think, in a year or 2 years with your database, using patterns, predictive analytics, you can say, okay, these 10 people within the next 3 months have an 80% probability to buy or sell a house. Wow. That's new to us, but that is not new to what Amazon is using right now. They're already doing it. So it's just something to keep in mind. This technology's been there, it's just now real estate's turn to utilize it and how we're going to effectively use it.
It's impressive.
It is.
It's neat to think you would spend thousands of dollars just to get your name to move up in Google recently, to going as far as, wow, Bob looked at something on his Facebook and I'm going to find out about it. That's impressive and neat. And go ahead.
No, it's exactly right. And it still boils down to the relationships that are timely, right? And Gio and I were, last night, ran into him at the gym and we were talking and he was just like, man, it's a lot, the technology. But we started talking a little bit, he goes, well, that's really cool. But he said it yesterday too, it is about the relationships. It's about who you know. It's about database. That's what he said last night, right? Mm-hmm. And so, to your point and to what you were saying last night, the tech is cool. And what is your take? Well, you say it so nicely from what Gary says. The role of technology is to do what in real estate?
Oh, it's to help you be more likable with more people more often. So it's amplifying that. Where, like you said, Lou, it's getting face to face. It's going to allow that to happen on a higher level with more people.
More likable, more people, more often. It's not to replace you. It's to use it more effectively. That's all. Like you said, you're figuring it out as you go.
Yeah. Right? And it's changing as I learn it.
I know.
But it's okay. Because I didn't really learn it that great the first time anyway. So, but yeah, it's all relationships. And including the people that you work with. It's not just your clients.
Technology from our competitors is trying to intercede your relationship with their tech. Do you get that?
Yes. Yeah.
It's right here, right? It's that opportunity between transactions. That's
well, and a lot of your clients already know some of the things that they had to have an agent for. They know the house, they know the area, they know the price, they know what it looks like on the inside from Zillow, even if it's not listed. So now you have to really show how important you are and why they need you. Where before you didn't really have to do that. They called an agent because they didn't want to go through the book and didn't know how to get in and out. Now they can do all that without you, so you have to shut your guy.
Functionary tasks have been decreasing year over year over year. Fiduciary responsibility is what they're putting value on. The functionary tasks are going away. Every year, less and less of that. And the fiduciary, the guiding, the advising, the coaching, the helping the client think through the process. They have information at their fingertips now. It may not be great information sometimes, or the right information, but that's your role as a fiduciary, to guide them. So I want to put on this video of Watch a Day in the Life of Omega, which would be a great transition into, Sean's going to kind of be taking over the rest of this. I have to step out for an appointment, and then Doug Andrus will be coming in at the end of today, okay? Good, panel. But we're going to play this because I want you to see, it's just about a 3-minute video or so. And I want you to really reflect when we get into the pearls of wisdom that Sean's going to talk through with you, what nuggets of information you're getting. If you look at what this mega agent does every day to succeed, what are they doing? What are they actually putting to practice? You'll hear some of this in there. You'll hear some systems they've built and their approach to how they think about growing their businesses. So try and pull out 2 or 3 things from this video that we can discuss, okay?
Hi, I'm Linda McKissick, and I'm going to talk to you about an ideal day in the life of a mega agent. First thing in the morning, I have to start with getting up and getting my head right. What I've discovered is if I get my head there, my body will show up. So that typically means getting up in the morning, always exercising, getting the blood flowing, and second, reading something either spiritual or motivational, or listening to an audio tape. Jim Rohn happens to be my favorite, so he's always in one of my CD players somewhere so that I can plug it in easily. Just listening to people that are inspirational, because I think all of us need hope every day to go do what we have to do. As we get to the office, the most important thing is, because every business is a lead generation business, is what does that lead generation look like? For me, because I'm at the 7th level, one of the most important things is what key people do I need to talk with that day? And that always pops up first. Do they have what they need to succeed? And then the next thing is, who are the people we need to be doing business with? How have I communicated with them lately? What do I need to do now? Is it a phone call today? Is it a drip campaign? Is it an invitation to something? Looking for how do I communicate with those people that we want to do business with, and how do I keep furthering that relationship and moving it along? I've discovered my business energy is highest earliest in the morning, earliest in the day, and earliest in the week. So I front load my week, Monday being the most difficult day with all the contacts and all the lead generation that I need to do early in the morning. And that frees me up to have the afternoon to kind of just work on plans or projects. Typically what I find is through the week, Monday and Tuesday are heavier, and Wednesday, and by Thursday and Friday it's pretty more entrepreneurial and just off the cuff. And then the evening on Mondays or through the week is, it's always about family, because the reason we do what we do is so that we can build a great life and build great memories with our family. So our kids are very important to us. We're very involved. It's what are we going to do as a family? What do we need to do as a family? When's dinner? Where are we going to go? What are we going to eat? And that kind of rejuvenates me. One of my philosophies is the purpose of business is to run life, and to me, life is all about family. And as a mega agent, your day might look different, but the key things we have to always remember is certain parts of our day have to look the same. So you might want to think about, where's my head? How can I get my head in the right place? And then we always want to remember that every business has to be lead generated. So what does your lead generation look like? Is it earliest in the morning? Is it earliest in the day? And then we always have to know that somewhere in the day we have to spend that quality time with family, because we don't want to win at business to lose at family. Thanks for watching Kennedy Connect, and make it a great day.
I had to get the end of the music in there,
It's timeless. It's like Beethoven. 2 or 3 ahas.
Well, I like when she mentioned the key people she has to meet, she thought was going to benefit. She said, do they have what they need to succeed?
That's a great question. Do they have what they need to succeed? What else?
Like, just starting the day off right, getting your head of the game, and just kind of have a good start to your day to kind of set the tone for the day.
We talked about it earlier, the 4 a.m., the 5 a.m. club, right? We talked about that. That's how we started today's training. It's it's vital. One more?
The energy levels,
Yeah.
they're more stronger in the morning than they are at night.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
It's so true, but she said what did you, my business energy is at its peak in the morning. Heidi, did you have something to add to that?
Just to know when it is, like someone's could be the afternoon.
To
just
be
know
aware.
when yours is.
So I'll transition
Yeah.
to Sean now.
And it's almost a perfect, if you saw the perfect segue to kind of a philosophy of how not only scheduling your day, but then that translates to the week, right? She said Monday, so earliest of the day, then earliest in the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then that next little, you think about even on a year. So one thing, think about if you actually plan your goals for the year around, say, 10 months. And think about that. Think if you schedule those activities around 10 months, and then that takes the pressure off a little bit, right? What if you have a bad couple months? What if you have a bad month? What if you execute those first 10 months, and then, whatever your fiscal year is, November, December come around, you've already hit your goal. Everything else is kind of gravy, right? It's kind of powerful, again, when we think about how we can prioritize and how we can kind of, de-lever ourselves and take that stress off when we try to hit our goals, right?
Any final thoughts for me as I step away? Any clarifying things from the first 2 hours of today?
Be great.
We're good? Oh, yes. Thank you. But I just want to make sure we're good on, my big rocks for that was what your morning would look like to set the tempo. Because he's going to be getting into activities and different things, right? As you reflect on some of the questions. And then my other big thing was this funnel. And really understanding that the systems you build around this funnel ensure that you have a predictable conversion every time. And it gives you an awareness of where your weakness is. That's all. Good job.
I love the part about how you say don't use why, the question was.
Yes.
I happened to be at the mirror last night, and another woman was doing a listing appointment from another agency. I was listening in. She said why 1,000 times. I was paying attention because I had from last year from you. Don't ask why question.
Yeah, I've been saying it for about 2
And
years.
it was amazing. And so I listened to myself now. How often do I say why? I try to figure out a way to switch that around. It just makes you sound more professional for one. If you say why, it's almost like, I don't know, please tell me, instead of I know something that will help you. What is the problem? Not why do you have it, but what is it and how can I help? So I like that. It's a big.
Awesome. I love that. And I think I'm going to take some of that at the front end of, do they have what they need to succeed?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That was really good.
That's cool. Thank you all. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Well, John breaks too. Let's just we have like a 2 hour sprint. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. I'm going to get water, use the restroom, get coffee. We'll come back and we'll wrap up here.
Well, because I
Thanks, you
can't avoid with these courses throughout my entire career. I'm more loyal to working type person. We had a course called Sweat many years ago. And it was really geared for new agents. And when you're stumbling, he would come out and say, pucker your lips and try to get the word that starts with a W out. When do you plan on making a move? Okay. Yeah, where? And then how, it's just another way with a W, except they're just like an H, okay? And then at the end, you would ask them, what is the word? Okay, so I've always used the why, like John said. It would be at the end, but I already know the end result, where I want to be. But I have to leave them there to be there with me, okay? So that's why I probably ask all kinds of questions. You know, he articulates it very well. I just do it, okay? So if you ask me how I do these things or whatever, because I don't know, I've done it so many times before that when I'm in action with somebody, like a true buyer and seller, I can do it. I'm gonna sit here and I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good at that.
But see, like, Merv and I are just talking right now. I have done role play classes with me in the whole organization. We would actually Shirley Dipple and I and Kathleen Gardner was here the other day. We would actually have a role play half-hour session, a three-way conversation. So Shirley would be the agent, and then Kathleen and I, if we're both on the phone, would be the reciprocal, and then we just role play back and forth.
Right.
Okay, when we were taking on both classes. But we went back down to the Floyd Wiggins way of doing things. It's a difference. Well, he's been around 100 years. In fact, I golfed with a guy that taught Floyd.
No kidding, what?
Yeah. So,
Is he a golfer?
no. He's also pushing 80 years old, and he's still golfing.
No, my dad's just second, he can't golf. He's not even one. Can't drive.
Happy birthday, Al.
Thank you, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Al, happy belated first slap on the ass day.
Wow.
Well, because at his age, that's how they, when we got pulled out, we got slapped to get us to scream and cry to get the air in our lungs. They don't do that anymore. They use suction cups and everything else.
I wanna know if it was the last time.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, probably not.
I'm telling you, we get rowdy in here.
How many years?
Well, let's just say I wasn't here yesterday for my birthday because I just didn't want to work on my birthday, which I've never done really. Because that was 49, and I can guarantee you next year when I hit the 50, I will not be in Michigan. I will be on a beach, I will be on a cruise, I will be somewhere for the 50th, I will be gone.
So 49 years ago yesterday, I know exactly what your mother was doing.
Yeah.
Screaming and hollering and fussing at your dad.
What's wrong with the beaches in Michigan?
At this time of year?
Back in January.
Yeah.
Why, there's nothing wrong with that. I just
No, you will not see me, I guarantee
I
you.
just
You
go
will
up
not
north
see me
and
for
throw
a
a
lot
water
of
and
weeks.
jump in the lake.
Lot of weed,
That's right,
this
Ed.
time, I'm gone.
Tell you what, you're a healthy 49.
Thank you. I was actually thinking, what's that guy's name? That he just started his first cruise ship, Virgin Cruise Line. Richard, yeah. I was actually looking at his and I'm like, you know what, that's really interesting. I mean, brand new cruise ships, that may be the plan.
No, the Titanic was new.
Huh?
I don't know, the Titanic was new.
Well, it'll be about a year old at that point, so.
You might
I
want to
know
know
what
what,
if I'm going down.
you might want to know when there's a little season.
Who cares?
I'll care.
Thanks, man.
All right, everybody, let's go ahead and wrap up and move to the 411.
What is it with these cruise ships running into each other lately?
I've never been on a cruise personally, and I don't really plan on. They're bringing one to the Great Lakes, though, right?
Yes, I heard that,
They're
yeah.
doing a Great Lakes cruise. They're starting next year, which
That'd be really
No,
interesting.
there's been cruise ships in Great Lakes for quite a while.
like the luxury liners,
A lot of German, they've all been German.
Oh,
There's
okay.
something that's new that they're coming out with right
Viking
now.
cruise or something, yeah. First
So I'm
time.
glad that you're at the point now where you're getting into the 411, the 135, and from my point, because I hear the feedback from everybody, you know, the technology is overwhelming. And the one thing that people have not really thought about doing is, do you have a 411 for your technology? Do you have a 135 for your technology? I mean, of course it's about business. It also should be about personal. Should be about family. And think about that as he's going through that with your technology as well. Take it away, boss.
Nice pitch, Al.
Yeah, see how I did that?
Yep, sneak that in. So first of all, who's familiar with the 411? What does 411 stand for? That's a different term for it, but yeah, that is correct information. But for this purpose, for 411.
Weed month of the year.
Sure, so how does that break down?
I don't know, I just read it.
4 weeks, 1 month on there.
Okay, good. So it's 4 weeks, 1 month, and 1 year. Okay, so you're gonna have your 4 weekly goals, you're gonna have 1 monthly goal that'll be 12 times, and then you'll have an annual goal. But even look at more bigger picture than that. Think of anything, it could be personal, it could be business. When you set a goal, when do you usually get discouraged or not as motivated to achieve it?
Right before you,
What's that?
right before you quit.
Right before you quit, sure, absolutely. But what kind of, I'm just curious, what thoughts are through your head? Why are you triggered to not keep pushing towards your goal?
When you find that you're not on track to hit it.
Yeah, absolutely. So not being on track. What's another reason? There's going to be a ton of reasons why we don't hit our goals.
You lose the motivation.
You lose motivation. Sure. I had this is back in my teaching days, the person who was my mentor in education. And it was dealing with students, pass, fail, A, B, C, D. And he told me, he said, Sean, students or people do not get discouraged when they're failing. They get discouraged and they quit when they're lost. And that really sank home with me. And I thought about it, that's true for me too. When I really feel my worst, when I'm trying to achieve something, is when I don't know where I'm at, I don't see a way forward, and I don't see a way back. So it's important, at least when we're failing, we know where we're at. We're at a 49, for education purposes, a 49 and 50%. And we know what it takes to get to a D, a C, a B, and an A. And we know the activities that it would take to get there. As opposed, if we're not tracking, we don't know what our grade is. We really don't know where we're at. We don't know what it takes. We can't even make a decision on what we would like to get out. So for me, that's how a 411 is really, really helpful. And to Al's point, what's great about this is you have multiple 411s. And the whole goal of this 411 is to chunk down your overall goal and to see what it takes on a daily basis to get there. 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. Not to discourage you, but to allow you to make a decision. For example, if you're through November and you're shy 20 appointments, you know you need to make up 20 appointments to make your goal, based on your conversion rate, $100,000 a year. It's November, you're short 20. You can actually see and say, okay, if I don't make up those 20, I'm going to make $94,000 this year. Is that okay? That might be okay. You might say, you know what, I'm okay doing that. Or you can make a decision and say, you know what, I'm going to sprinkle and try to get those 20 appointments to hit my goal of 100,000. If we're not tracking week by week, month by month, we would have no idea how far behind. We would just know that, guess what, I know I'm off on my goal appointments. So what this allows us to do is to track and stay in touch with our goal weekly, so we can trend and have a decision on if we want to reach it or not, and what does it look like if we don't reach it. Okay? I'm going to take you and read you through right now, because in a minute, I know we've been a heavy lecture for the last over 2 hours, so I want to actually have you working in your business here for a little bit. I'm just going to read you my rough draft of my 411. Not all of it, but just a couple. So for example, for my business side of things, I want to hold 252 appointments in the year. So in 1 year, I want to hold 252 appointments. For the month, I want to hold 21 appointments. So again, I broke down my year. 21 times 12 is 252. On the week, I need to hold 5 appointments per week. So hold 5 appointments per week, hold 21 appointments per month, and hold 252 appointments per year. How can I make that better? Again, this is just my rough draft, my first shot at this. What might be missing from that? Absolutely, very good, Bill, absolutely. So one thing I could do is with that appointments, I could say, okay, I'm going to hold 252 appointments. 180 of those will be market share appointments with producing agents. Very good. What's another way I can improve on that?
More efficient use of your time.
Yes, let's go a little further.
If an appointment's taking you 90 minutes, try to get it down to 1 hour.
Absolutely. So setting, and that takes time actually. That's actually forcing my activity of working through an appointment and getting through a needs analysis in 60 minutes and then 45 minutes. So that gives me more time back to achieve my other goals. Very good. So again, even when we look at a 411 and the number, we got to make sure they're smart. We got to make sure there's time around it. We got to make sure it's measurable, because every appointment is not the same. I mean, if I'm sitting with a $10 million producer or a $2 million producer, I don't approach it the same way. Just like you probably should approach when you have a listing appointment for a $3 million house as opposed to a $150,000 house. So it's making sure we track that. For my personal ones, so for example, I want to hold 48 date nights in the year with my wife, or it's just the two of us. My monthly goal, I want to hold 4 date nights a month. And then obviously per week, I want to hold 1 date night per week. How can I improve that?
Quality of the date.
Quality of the date, give me an example.
Instead of just sitting home watching a movie on the couch, a nice dinner, or something spontaneous, something.
Absolutely. A date's vague, right? So maybe I would go back and add and say, you know what? We're going to have 48 nights where we leave the house. So we're not at dinner at home. No, we're going to actually go out, get out of the house, and have a date that way. What's another way I can improve it?
Put it on the calendar.
Put it on the calendar. Absolutely. So we could put it on the calendar so it's scheduled. So we're not through the month. Again, I put no time constraint on this. So it might be every day go home and say, oh, I want a date tonight. How do you want to have a date tonight? How do you want to have a date? No, no, no. But if we pre-qualify and say, no, let's put this on the calendar. Let's look forward to this, and then we can both work our schedules around it. One thing that's huge, and as we get into this 411, again, you're going to never change your annual goal. So the goal you set for the year, once you decide on it, it doesn't change. Your monthly goals, how often can you change them?
You can just change it for the next month.
Yeah, so how many times? How many times can you change your monthly goal?
11.
Yeah, 11 times after that first month. You only change the monthly goal at the end of the month. And again, it's based on what you did on the weekly level. So again, if you're behind 2 appointments for 1 month, you can then decide, okay, I'm going to add 1 the next month. And that number would change on a monthly basis. One thing my wife and I do, which is huge, is every Sunday we take 15 minutes, and we sit and we go over each other's calendars. And it has helped us immensely. For one simple example, something we always fought about, because we're both very busy, is we would get through the week. I'd wrap up a day, I'd be leaving here at 6 o'clock, I'd get a call from my wife in a very nice voice and say, honey, would you mind stopping at the grocery store? We need X, Y, Z. And after a long day, I'm thinking I'm finally going home and ending my day, it put me in a terrible mood. And it just an emotional reaction, like, fine, I'll do it. But I wasn't happy about it. As opposed to, when we sit down on Sunday, I look at my calendar and hers, and we say, okay, I'm going to be leaving the office at 5 o'clock on Wednesday. Would you mind stopping for groceries on that Wednesday after work? Put it in my calendar, and it's, okay, yeah, no problem. See how the mindset's different? If I'm preparing for it, I'm still going to end up having to do the same thing, but it's not unexpected at the end of the day. That's just one little example of many that has kind of changed our dynamics when you have 2 working people in the household, and she's not only working, she's in grad school as well, to make sure those things still get done, and we don't end up taking things out on each other. And again, it's 15 minutes, calendars side by side, and you just make sure, okay, let's be on the same page. Let's make sure we're not having emotional reactions when we need something from one another. That's one huge thing. So with the 411, I want to take some time out. When we leave today, I just want you to have a good first draft. A good first draft of what your next year after coming out of Ignite looks like. Now, it's important to realize that to really do this effectively, it takes 1 to 3 days. So you get a first draft, you kind of digest it, you think about it, you come back, you see how you can improve it with the little ways that we've already improved my first draft. Then that third day, you try to really iron it out in stone. Okay, this is my annual goal. This is what I'm sticking with. On the monthly basis, take an hour or two. So at the end of every month, take an hour. Reflect on what you did from that last month, tracking your activities in your 411, and then make a decision on what you want to do moving forward. For example, if say you're behind 4 appointments from that month, but you know in the next month you're going on vacation. Maybe that's not the best strategy to try to make up those 4 appointments. Maybe the following month, you don't have anything planned. You're not traveling, you're going to be focused on work. Then you can say, okay, in that following month, I'm going to try to make up those 4 appointments. Again, so strategically setting up your activities so you can track them and you know where you're at all times. Staying hyper-focused on your one goal. And then on a weekly basis, same thing. It's chunked down again. It's 15 minutes. At the end of every week, reflect on the week that you had, the activities you performed, the opportunities you have moving forward, and then make a decision on, okay, do I want to make up where I fell short? Yes. Is next week the best week? No, I have a birthday party, I have a wedding, I have an anniversary. Okay, it's going to be the week after that. Allows you to get tactical with your overall strategy of achieving your goal. Does that make sense? On page, I think it's 17 right now. Page 17 on the 411. Pardon me, page 21. So page 21, it has some examples of what these goals might look like. What I try to do is for each section of my life, so just for these two, I have my personal and I have business. I have 3 for each. I try not to do any more than that. Again, these are my 3 rocks that I am hyper-focused on that I have to achieve. You're gonna have more goals. But these are your 3, that's why I want you to take some time to think, what are the 3 big things in your business and in, say, your personal life that you want to achieve? Again, mine were holding 252 appointments. These were my first ones. I've updated this. This is, again, my first rough draft. 252 appointments, hire 60 agents, and set 40 market share appointments. My personal was very simple. I want to hold 48 date nights with my wife. Again, just a baseline. I need to improve on that. I want to walk 100 miles. I'm not a big cardiovascular guy, so I want to force myself to walk more, exercise more in that manner. And I want to cut back on meat. I want to not eat meat 100 days out of the year. What's that? That's going to be a struggle for me. That's going to be a struggle. But guess what that equates to? That equates to roughly not eating meat 2 days out of the week. If I take 2 days, and the other 5, I can eat steak, I can eat chicken, fish, everything. 2 days out of the week, if I don't have meat, I've hit my goal of 100 days out of the year I will not eat meat. I mean, I based that just on some research I did on how that will lower cholesterol levels and different indicators for your health. So again, that's the importance and value. And again, I can adjust. Say this week, say when I go to family reunion, we go out, I have a steak every single night. I then make a decision, okay, the week I get back, I'm going to take 3 days. I just won't eat meat on those 3 days. And guess what? I'm right back where I need to be. As opposed to if I'm not tracking it, I'm kind of just guessing. It's like, oh, I know I'm off, but I don't know specifically by how much. Okay. This says 30 minutes. I don't want to take 30 minutes, but I do want to take 15 minutes. Look at some of these examples. Think back to session 1 when you set your goal for GCI. I want you to factor that in as well. And get a good, solid, rough draft of what you want 3 goals to be for business and for your personal life. 3 goals. Don't worry about getting super focused. Again, it's just a first draft on what we want to achieve.
Say all business or personal?
I like to have it's balance, right? It's balance. So I do 3 personal and I do 3 business. As Al previously stated, maybe do 3 for 10, right Al?
This is what I mean about technology, like how'd that even come on?
Again, these are numerical-based goals, so just make sure that you're dividing them down evenly to start, right? They should be even as we start out. It should be the same amount every single month. It should be the same amount every single week. After that first month, then it will start to look different. But it starts out evenly divisible. Take about 5 more minutes. Again, just having a good start on a first rough draft.
We want 3 personal ones?
That's what I personally do is 3 personal, 3 business. You can start with just 1 and just get in trouble.
Not 3 personal ones, even thinking of them.
Well, what are somebody else's personal ones?
I'll share.
Yeah.
Now, I just did you want year and month old?
No, just start with what's your
Oh, okay.
overarching goal.
I'll share both of them, because we just did this, our annual big meeting, so we're big on like the goals, but, my 3 personal, I'll go both of them, if you want, do you want both?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My 3 business would be for the year, it's kind of reasons both, but I want to close, 25 units for the year. I did 13 last year, so I want to shoot a little bit more than that. I want to be able to hold 3 listings at a time, so we'll continue with that. And then be able to hold 3 pendings at all times, so obviously be a realtor. So those are my 3 business. 3 personal would be going on the date night once a month, so just making sure it's in the calendar. And then we usually like to have a family movie night on Saturdays or during the week sometime. So we always have I put once a week, but that's probably, I should change that because that's not once a week, it's usually once a month as well. And then the weekly goal is my husband and I like to do Friday happy hour. So we always meet in our basement at 5 o'clock on Fridays, like every Friday. It's 5 o'clock happy hour, the kids are whatever, but we just rehash the week. We're both home at 5 o'clock and just clear the calendar. Friday happy hour. Which, yeah, I'm ready for it. I just text him like, when's 5 o'clock? Because I'm ready right now. But,
I have 4 people coming. I open my mouth in class and now everyone's coming over.
it's actually like, truly, that's, we start
started that a couple months ago, and it's just him and I. I mean, we really don't like to do anything on Fridays because we're so tired, but we just have our work clothes on and we just go in the basement and we have our finished, bar and just rehash because you don't get to do it during the week. We're very busy just like everybody else, but it's just something you look forward to and you don't have any appointments. Fridays are just our time and then we make dinner, go to bed, continue every day, but it's 1 hour. That actually is great. It's better than even trying to get out of the house because you can get a lot more done when you just go downstairs and talk. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I just know with my wife and I, no kids yet. We got a couple months left. So we just have 2 dogs, and it's just hectic at home. So we just try to. That's our thing is trying to get in the new scenery. We see each other a couple hours a day, and it's always at home. That's always a little tired. So for us, it's
that's why we always take it in the basement because the basement is a finished bar. I mean, it's gorgeous. Do it, and then it's kind of like the rest of bar, but we spend half the money, and the kids usually are not by us, and if they are, who cares? We're just in our zone. So it's been nice.
You're gonna need to double up on those before you hit me.
I know.
It's gonna be hard to get out.
Yeah, until May 24th, so still got some adjustments.
Start going, double it up, so you end at your goal.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, people, for sharing that. Anyone else? Where's everyone else at? Anybody else have a goal they're thinking? It could be personal or business.
I put for business, I was doing it weekly, so 25 open houses a week, which would lead me to 2 a month. And then talk to.
Wait, 25 a week?
0.5.
Oh, I was like.
Oh, I'm thinking.
How's that gonna happen?
No, 0.5 a week, which would be 2 a month.
Oh, perfect.
So I was just trying to keep it in the 4-1-1.
Yeah.
So, talk to 10 strangers a week, not on the phone, personally, whether it be the supermarket, wherever, and then 10 hours of lead gen a week. Just getting on that, sticking to it, because this is my first month, and I've done next to none of it. So I really just gotta start hitting phones and coming in here and sitting down and getting out of my home environment where I started projects and picking or doing whatever I might be doing. So.
Yeah. Just as I was just looking through this, I just want to share real quick, and we'll get back to some examples. But with lead gen, it's learning how to be the most efficient with your time, right? And what I was finding myself doing early on in lead gen is I was mixing in follow-up and pipeline work into my time-blocked lead gen. I'd have a conversation, I didn't want to go to command, I want to get in command, I want to put in all this information, and I was wasting so much time where I could be making that next dial. So how I prioritize, again, we talked about this, is obviously the first thing on my calendar is script. Then as we move through the day, 9 to 11 is lead gen. Then I have an hour blocked for follow-up. Then I have an hour blocked for my pipeline, which is actually in my CRM. And John talked a little bit about, this is what mine look like. So this is my dial sheet that I use. And again, so every dial I make, I put a slash through it. If I have a conversation, I put a C. And if I set an appointment, I put an A and circle it. Every single day I do this. And then I can track number of dials, number of contacts, and number of appointments, day over day. What I then do is on the other side, is I have all of the contacts that I've made. I write a short 1 or 2 sentence note about information that I need to remember for later. This is where I was wasting a lot of time, is I was physically going in and putting this into my CRM during my lead gen time. That's not what that is. So what I would do is I would, okay, lead gen's done. I've made all my new contacts and appointments. I circle back to that for my pipeline work. So it's later in the day, I revisit all the contacts I made, the appointments, the information that I got. It goes into my CRM, it goes into my pipeline. Then, the next time I revisit these people, when do I do it? Do I do it during my lead gen time? Do a follow-up? Exactly. I have an hour set aside specifically for that. So I'm doing my follow-up during follow-up time. It's so important to protect lead gen and have it just specifically be for lead generation, new business. I do not want to be working on any existing business during that time. This is all about future business. And that took me a couple months to learn because I was spending my time, I was wasting too much time. And as you'll see, as these dates go on, I was able to make more and more dials. I was starting off just making 10 in 2 hours. So I was having 7 conversations and making sure I'm recording all these perfect notes in Command. I'm still able to do that, but again, it's time blocked for that in my pipeline. So again, when John mentioned that, I just want to pull this out so you can see kind of how I work my lead gen with my notes, with my dial sheets. And these, you can print them. These are on KW Connect. It's a template that you can print, that I print from every single day. And with the 411, the 135, these are available. You can print something like this. It's on the onething.com. So it's from the book, The One Thing. You can take them from that book and print out and have a template. Executing this at a high level, what I've seen agents execute a 411 at a very high level, it's an actual Excel spreadsheet that's broken down by month, to where you input the numbers into the spreadsheet, broken down by month, and then it's easy to simply adjust the numbers in that spreadsheet. It's not just simply on paper and you're filing a new paper every single month. It's actually a digital Excel spreadsheet that you plug into. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Tell me that sheet you had where you actually wrote down the contacts from,
So
the
this
notes,
is it's called a call log form,
call log.
and it's a dial tracker. It's a dial tracker.
Okay.
Yep, and again, that's on kwconnect.com. I use it every single day. And another thing that I've started to do, which made me more efficient, is, so I told you my 411, right? My 411 is to set 2 appointments a day. That's my goal. What I was doing early on was I was dialing till I got that second appointment, and then I'd say, okay, I'm done, right? I achieved my goal. Now I've augmented that, and I'm literally following the schedule. If I have 2 hours set aside for lead gen, that's what it's there for. I'm going to do it for 2 hours. So I'll show you a couple of my sheets. I've set 2 appointments and 5 dials. It took me 20 minutes. I'm still continuing to use that time, which then will lead to more appointments, which then will lead to more skill building, which will then improve my conversion rates. So where I'm not just setting that 2. That makes sense? Again, it's so important to just follow the schedule. Yes, track the result, be aware of the result, but really follow the schedule and use all of that time because that's what it's there, that's what it's blocked for. It's not an opportunity to, if you achieve something early, to move on to something else. If it was that important that you need to move on to something else, it should be in your calendar as a specific date and time to achieve whatever that activity is. Okay? As we wrap up here, I want us to turn to page page 23. And just kind of as we wrap up here, I want to get some feedback kind of from what you guys have experienced over the last 30 days.
Do you have the black book? I think you're on page 21.
You guys at 21 for you guys? So it should say evaluate wins and opportunities?
Yes. Yeah.
There you go, evaluate wins and opportunities, good. So wins. What are some wins that we have had these last 4 weeks? Could be big, could be small. There's some wins.
Grow my database.
Grow your database, absolutely. By how much? You know?
Well, it wasn't much before I started this class, so significantly.
Yeah. Where's your database at right now? Located.
Oh, Command.
It's in Command?
Yes.
Absolutely. So that right there is a huge win. Actually I was on an appointment yesterday with somebody from real estate, won 30 years in the business, doesn't have a he has a database, but it's nowhere. It's not an Excel spreadsheet.
Wow.
It's simply in his phone. And having a conversation, just the missed opportunity there. It's unbelievable. So even though, that's why I said big, small, having it actually in Command in the CRM, that is a win. That is a huge win, so great job. What's another win?
I think over the past week or so, it's just been, for me, really building the business back up. And out of it over years and creating the tools, I've been able to take the information from Ignite and really, basically, literally build a book.
Yes.
That has all my presentations, buyer's presentations, seller presentations, checklists, and questions, and scripts, and all that stuff. That is basically now my tool, to run my business.
Yeah. Sharpening the axe, right? And those tools, sometimes we're learning new tools, sometimes like the skills that you've had over your career, it's sharpening, making sure you're staying in touch with them. I mean, that's the one, I mentioned this at the last stakeholder meeting with Abraham Lincoln. One of my favorite quotes by him was that he said, if you gave me 6 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe. It's being efficient and staying on top of those skills and making sure they are as sharp as possible, so you're as efficient as possible, making your way through leads, appointments, agreements, contracts, and getting close. Every single step of the way. Absolutely. Who's got one more win from the last one?
Refreshing myself with the basics, getting right down to the basics, the nitty-gritty of how this business actually works. Getting my head back into the game, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. And on that note, what I think is a great almost side effect of Ignite is the accountability we kind of have, right? We know we're going to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We know we're going to do these activities and we're going to be together. What happens sometimes is once we lose this collective, this group, we're not meeting anymore on these 3 days a week. We lose that side of accountability and we might not hold ourselves as liable for those activities. Now is the time to really say, okay, now I'm going to commit to these activities. And that's why it's so important. Like I said, reach out even outside of KWL and find a scripting partner, find a role play partner, find an accountability partner. There's TLs that I know that I've talked with in the region that they actually every single morning they share their calendar with one another to make sure there's 2 appointments on there, there's lead gen time on there, there's follow-up on there. It's literally sharing the calendar every day to say, okay, let's make sure that's a little bit of an extreme level, but just making sure that that's there. So again, the real work starts now. The baseline's there. Again, it's that doing those activities and now executing. I just want what are opportunities? I know we got a couple early on. Where are some things that we think we could improve? What would be a way to kind of level up this experience? Go.
I mean, it's just saying exactly what you just said, but for me, the accountability is the biggest thing I can do. Set my goals, make my calendar, and having that calendar, sticking to it, and being accountable for, hey, if I slept till 10 today and I didn't do these things, well, now I'm accountable because I had to be up and I had to be doing this by this time, etc. So accountability and just the, time, making your time, set your calendar. So if you don't do it, you can see it as a failure versus, well, I'm my own boss, I can do what I want.
Yeah, so, and replace, not erase, right?
Right.
So replace this, because life happens. Replace, not erase, absolutely. What's one more opportunity? You think of one more? I know you've been through a couple times.
Just being more disciplined in what I have to do with my scheduling of my different times during the day. Really just sticking with it. Because I know that if I stick with it better than I have been, I'm going to have more opportunities coming out of doing those kind of things.
Yes.
Being focused, having that tunnel vision.
Absolutely. And it's what Gary Keller says, right? So it's not about selling real estate. What's it about?
Relationships.
That's about even more fundamental than that.
Helping people.
It's not about selling real estate. It's about following a schedule. Think about that. If we follow a schedule, it will kind of take care of itself. If we have the right activities and the right focus on what's on our calendar. Very good. Colleen, now you want to come over? Quick. Al, come on over. Now we have a couple birthdays here.
Yesterday was Al's